And greetings, everyone. Glad to have you here. And this is the after show debate where we're going to be talking about the debate that just happened on pre-trib versus pre-wrath. And Tim should be coming in shortly here. He said he would and all, so expecting him to show up. If anybody like to be a part of the show, love to have you. All you have to do is click on the link for StreamYard. Come on in. Again, if we don't know you or haven't seen you before, you do have to show your face in the backstage. You don't have to keep it where you're showing like I am in the while coming onto the stage. And you have to be 18 years or older. So in doing that. Greetings, everyone. Okay, so we have a couple in here and stuff. Okay. Jim, he's one of, I am the one who pre-tribs. Very good. We also have Truth Transmission. Glad to have you here. That's it for right, or let's see, AD33 came in and his part here. Okay. Howdy there. How you doing, Jim?
How you doing, Kurt?
So, what do you think? Or did you see the debate?
I did. It was kind of hard to watch, brother. It was very hard to watch, in my opinion.
I understand.
Tim did all right, being it's his second time debating formally. He definitely could have done a lot better, but I'm in no position to critique. I've never debated anyone, so.
Yeah, I understand. Truth as where's Layman? He chickened out. Yeah, he preferred not to be a part of tonight's show, and things like that. So that in doing that, so that's fine. I'm waiting for Tim to come up, then I will work on more of where I stand and all on the thing, because just to tell you, I actually was helping Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him some things to not go into. And guess what he went into?
He went into it. I think there was a lot of labels being thrown around, to be honest. Tim does get a lot of inspiration from Dr. Ruckman, but he is also completely independent and in his thoughts and his processes from Dr. Ruckman. So, and then Tim calling kind of way left field could have been avoided. The implication can be there if we really dig deep down into Tommy's thought process regarding tribulation, salvation. But that goes without saying, you know, Tim probably shouldn't have alluded that he was a Calvinist throwing terms around like that.
Right. But again, that's unfortunately those who hold to free grace so adamantly, we have our, in some senses, areas where we have cage stage ourselves.
Yeah.
And dealing with that. That's part of the problem. And so in dealing with that, we got our little things that we have to go against because we're free grace. And the problem is that's not part of tonight's debate.
Yeah. I'm on Tim's side with I'm a dispensational salvation guy myself. That's why I don't argue it, because it's so controversial and I don't want to cause unnecessary division within the body. So I can fellowship with people that don't agree with me. People can't fellowship with me, unfortunately. But that wasn't really the point of the debate to get into dispensational salvation. It was really using dispensational salvation, as me and Tim would say, is a good way to prove pre-trib rapture. But if your opponent has a different view in that way, really, it's hard to kind of bring the two opposing views together.
Yeah, see,
True.
the problem is when we deal with dispensational, he's dealing with Tim, you're dealing with a small segment.
Mm-hmm.
They're loud, but they are only a small segment of dispensationalism, which goes into more of your mid to late acts dispensationalists. That Ruckman would be part of that. You got your different sects and all in that. And there's quite a few and stuff, but they still come underneath a mid to late acts. See, myself, I'm in Acts 2. So I would completely disagree with this dispensational salvation. I believe salvation is the same throughout all.
Ruckman was also an Acts 2 guy. He was in the mid-Acts.
Right, but he
Right.
went into a mid late understanding of which they hold to at least two different ways of salvation. Some even go further. So that's part of the thing and all. So Tim,
Yeah.
I haven't got into my view, but how did you think you did?
I mean, I think I did pretty well. I think the cross exam is where everything kind of just that didn't go as great as I wanted it to. So
Yeah, I will agree. Personally, due to the cross exam, I think you lost.
mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, I think you lost.
I can agree. Yeah.
Um,
It was hard to watch.
Yeah, it's because your starting points and all were good, but again, trying to go on to Perseverance of the Saints.
Bad move.
Yeah,
Right.
Bad move.
Right.
I told you that's
As soon
not.
as you start throwing those terms around like Calvinism, then it becomes a freak show at that point, you know.
Right.
And Brother Tommy really did get very heated as soon as you brought up Calvinism. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole thing just spun out of control at that moment. I believe that was the tipping point.
Right.
Because again, Perseverance of the Saints is not any part of really the topic. And
Right.
then secondly, when it came to even the mark of the beast, however you want to deal with that, the problem is he came into agreement with you
Mm-hmm.
on that it happens right after the middle of the tribulation.
Right. Right.
So that was a lost point.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you needed to have done was dropped it and gone into other things like dealing with Matthew 24
Yeah.
and some of the other questions that, because the reality is he had other questions, topics, things like that really dealt with the rapture question.
Right.
But I hate to say it, Tim never got to it because he wasted his time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Now on Tommy's cross exam, how do you feel about that one?
I think I did pretty well.
I think you did too. I think there was a section that you were struggling with, but overall, I think you did well with answering the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, in doing that.
So you need to learn how to articulate what you're saying.
Right.
A lot of confusion going on. Your intro was pretty good. If people, like I said, if you can articulate, if you weren't just kind of like reading off a script, like I said earlier, it felt very scriptish. I mean, of course you have slides and stuff, but I mean, if you can explain the slide just a little bit more in detail when you're trying to go off with them,
Right.
then it might have helped a little bit too. But because a lot of the people in the audience were kind of confused by what you were trying to say. I mean, I was able to catch a lot of it, but
Yeah.
a little further explanation never hurts, even if your time consumed, you know.
Yeah.
You'd rather people understand your position rather than you just listing off your position.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing is when you're doing an opening, that's part of the problem, anyways. When you're doing an opening, you're basically listing what you kind of hold to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's part of the. So that's what you're looking at usually at an opening. So the opening is fine.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is you never really got into the information into cross debate.
Mm-hmm.
That's where
Yeah.
the problem
Yeah,
lies.
there's a lot of wasted time there.
And
Yeah.
that's where you could have really did your points and things like that. So in doing that, Doki came in and he says, thank you for the time, Tim, and congrats on the first debate down, and that's on SFT. I know it's not your first debate on this, but with there. SoCal goes ahead and gives $5, and thank you very much for the $5. Tommy didn't win. As a panel, we're agreeing. He is out of control emotionally. I don't think he's out of control emotionally. I don't think that was the issue. I think in knowing Tim, I think he wanted something. He was like a dog with a bone. Is that okay, Tim? Because that was one of the things you really wanted to do, and I warned you not to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I don't know. I don't know exactly like what sparked me to, I think because whatever he was saying right before that was kind of like, I think it was kind of irking me, and it kind of caused me to go into those specific questions that I had for him. There was something he was saying right before that was just kind of like, I was like, he's getting on my nerves. And I was like, okay, let's, I forget what exactly he was saying. We may have to pull it up and watch it, or at least watch the cross exam.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that's why I went into my questions, because he was saying something that was just so outlandish, and it caused me to start asking him those questions.
I understand. And it says he didn't respect Tim, and it showed that Tommy is immature. Okay, so
yeah, I really want like the cross exam, because I probably should have just did a free flowing discussion instead of a cross exam.
Okay, I'm reading this wrong. I do apologize. Tommy didn't win, he says. See, I would disagree. I think Tommy won it on debate points. I'm talking about just debate points here.
Right.
I think it got very murky when it comes to, because of the cross exam, especially Tim's cross exam to Tommy. But again, so in this way is Tommy was out of control emotionally. Yeah, well, being called a Calvinist, I can that created the fire. Rage filled. Yep. He didn't respect Tim, and it showed that Tommy is immature. I think there was some immaturity on Tommy's part, especially being called a Calvinist and things like that. So in that way, but that's still not great for debates and stuff. And it was Tim's first SFD debate, and that was correct. So I think he did I think Tim, you did a okay job. Let me put it that way. There are areas to work on and things like that, but that comes with experience.
Right. I mean, that's the idea. I recognize that I'm not, too experienced, so I tried to do my best. I had a feeling the cross exam wasn't going to go the best, but I'm trying to remember what he was saying that got me to start talking like that. I can't remember.
I don't know exactly. I can bring it up and we can try to see where it is to see what was your thinking and all. But before we do that, Big Stack, glad to have you. SFT, glad to have you in here. William, glad to have you.
Yeah, and thank you. By the way, thank you, Brother Preston. I appreciate those kind words, brother. And I mean, let's also be a little fair. He really on my cross exam, he started asking me all kinds of questions, and he was kind of. I mean, he wasn't squeaky clean. He was kind of. I had to kind of keep reminding him that I'm asking the questions, so he wasn't Mr. Perfect either during this debate.
Yeah, so. And that's part of the thing. Another thing is and this comes with experience on debating and all. But one of the things is you don't allow the person who's cross-examining you to go on and on and on and on. It's like, if you have a question, please get to your question.
Right.
And you're allowed to say that.
Yeah, but he kept on asking. He started asking me questions, and that I think that's why that may have been what did it, when he started like just interjecting and taking over the cross exam.
Yeah, and
that might have been what was irking me.
Yeah, and that's something you have to learn to take control yourself, not allow the other opponent. Same thing with allow him to do what he's supposed to do, but if it goes past the debate rules, call him on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the thing of debates and all.
Yeah,
I know in Baptist we don't really learn debating per se. I as a Baptist also, I remember the type of discussions and all we had. It was more like a friend of mine. We had a debate on separation, and I had to take like a full separation. He took a not a separation, and they thought that we both were at each other's throats because we were yelling at each other. We were doing, and him and I were just having fun with each other because we knew how Baptists act.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we took it. And I ended up on it was today baseball, tomorrow Satanism.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
So, like I said, we destroyed the debate rules.
Right.
I mean, we brought up the stuff during it and stuff, but we also, because we took this as clowning around, because both him and I were on agreement, but we had to take opposite views. So we're like, and the reality is we didn't have much respect for this teacher. So Mark says, Tim, I appreciate all your research and prep time. You stepped up to the plate. Good on you, mate. Also, thank you, Kurt, for helping Tim with some of the prep.
Yeah, thank you, Kurt. Glory to God, brother. Appreciate you.
Wesley says hello. Jacob, glad to have you here. Let's see.
I mean, I already said at the end, I'm up for a part 2. I mean, I wouldn't even mind just going right back into it with the same opening, same everything, and just get properly into my cross exam. That's all I really need good training in, or like good experience in.
I think a good topic would be who is the tribulation for, you know?
Yeah.
In regards to the rapture, because Tommy, as far as I'm aware, he's a replacement theology guy. He's kind of like an Andersonite in a way, right?
No,
he's not. He hangs around that crowd.
He does hold to some where he would be more in your progressive style, it sounds like. Let me bring in Pray for Wisdom. Hello there. How you doing?
Hi. I'm going to switch off a camera because you don't need to see my messy kitchen.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So, what did you think of the debate?
Well, I thought Tim had him, but then he didn't follow through.
Yeah.
He needed to prove that Matthew 24, 4 through 31 was to the Jews and not to the Christians.
Yeah.
And that pretty much would tear apart the other Tommy's case.
Right. I think Tim did, in kind of haphazardly, answered the question in saying the elect, and the elect is Israel when it's being written and stuff in the book of Matthew. And so he didn't mention it, but yeah, it got lost. So yeah. I understand.
But when he brought that up, he had him. At that point, when Tommy brought that up, Tim had him, and he didn't take it.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things, because again, we in our debate prep, we talked about Matthew 24 quite a bit, and so and dealing with that. That's interesting way, So just to let you know, those who were asking where Layman is or Charles, he's going to be listening in. He's in the chat and all, so he'll make things and all there that way. Okay. Again, since there's a lot of things, if you have specific questions, put at TLS, or I'll even accept that Q. That way we can have direct questions, because I know there's a lot of things where people are asking other things, especially with SFT in the chat and all, and some people might bombard him on the post-trib pre-wrath view in doing that. So, okay, let's see. Going through. Okay, so any questions for Tim? I'm looking to see if there's any questions that people have for Tim in dealing with this. So Cal even asked, Tommy is replacement theology lordship. I do think he does kind of hold into more of a mixture, which I think that the progressive dispensational and your new covenant theology, your new covenant theology would be more covenantal theology. Your progressive dispensational still kind of leans there, but mixes in with the covenantal.
Oh, does he hold to that we're in the covenant in a way?
No, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about dealing with the who's the like the tribulation for, where you deal with a pre-wrath. That more moves into a different style, and a lot of your pre-wrath people are more progressive dispensational.
Oh yeah.
If they are dispensational.
I gotta research more about progressive dispensationalists. I know a little bit about them, not too much though.
Yeah, it's well, that's the thing is I understand. I will admit, I think I'm probably a little bit the weakest on progressive, but like I said, there's 5 schools of dispensationalism, and at this time now. Okay, we got a question. Mark is asking, is Tommy of the mindset that the 2 witnesses are the church and Israel in the tribulation?
No, he believes it's Moses and Elijah, just like most standard teachings and stuff like that. I did do a lot of research on him and watched his all of his Revelation playlists and things like that. And I don't know if a lot of what he said in there is something he still holds to, because that's when he was really a lot of like new IFB. But it sounds like he still does hold to a lot of it. So I would think it's safe to say that he believes Moses and Elijah are the 2 witnesses.
Right. Yeah, I know. I asked Tim about the mark of the beast and where he held, and we weren't sure at that time in the prep work, but we got clarity in the debate where he stand,
right,
and things like that. So that's a good thing there. Seeing if well, remember I know that a lot of people are putting Tommy's reform. He may have reform leanings. I don't know exactly where he fully is, because he is saying that he is, I guess, somewhat dispensational. But like I say with John MacArthur, some dispensational leaked in his covenant theology. He's really a futurist. He's not a dispensationalist, because he doesn't deal with the actual dispensations. He's just dealing with futurism. And so you have to look at these different things. So I can't really speak to Tommy. I don't listen to a lot of his stuff, but that's my issue. I have problems with a capital I independent Baptist preachers a lot of times.
What really surprised me about the whole debate, even though I know the cross-exam didn't go the way it should have, it's like everything he said I already knew. It's all the standard post-trib talking points. Like everything he was saying, that I had a whole list of rebuttals. If I had more time, I would have went through every single talking point he brought up and rebutted it very easily. And it was really just, that cross-exam was the only problem I really had. Everything else was just easy. in
No,
my
it's,
opinion, honestly.
Anytime you're involved, there's always a problem, Tim. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
yeah, you know.
I'm just messing with you.
Jim knows we hang out in the background all the time. So
Yeah, we're gonna meet up at the end of the month and go preach together.
yeah.
Lord willing.
That's why Jim doesn't give me a megaphone.
Yeah.
Well, you did something that other people just debating him have also done, and that's let him define 1/10 of the Bible by a single verse.
Right.
Revelation 20, I believe it was verse 6. You let him get away with defining the entire issue by a single verse.
Are you talking about the first resurrection?
Yeah.
No, I mean I made it clear there's multiple resurrections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't call him on the fact that he's using one verse to try to explain away many other verses.
I guess that would have been a good point to bring up. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Well, don't forget you wasted your time on the mark of the beast and free will.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that in itself, that's the reason why you lost it. In my opinion, you went completely off topic and you didn't deal with your subject matter to ask him questions, dive deeper,
right,
things like that, and you dealt with two topics that really isn't part of proving the rapture,
right,
or even when it is.
Well, I really didn't think he did lose. He held his own, but it was pretty much even. I would give Tim a slight edge, but just slightly. But there's just a couple things where he had his chances and didn't take them, and he could have cleaned up. But
yeah, again, I'm coming on debate rules. I'm not coming on when it comes. Like you said, he did good. He held, but he missed a lot of opportunities when it comes to proving the pre-trib rapture. That would be the thing. But no, again, like I said, I knew where like I said, I helped him throughout his whole prep work.
Mm-hmm.
We met like for 4 Sundays, about 3 hours each Sunday, going through stuff.
you guys live in the same area then, huh?
No amount of prep work. Something in the Army we learned was just because you prep doesn't mean you'll be ready for the real thing. You can do as much prep as you want, but as soon as you get in that hot seat like that, Tim, game's on, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And that's where experience takes place and stuff. So,
which Tim
like
lacks at the moment, but he'll get there.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. I agree. Again, if you have any questions in the chat, I am watching and stuff. I do see Dittmeyer, Wesley, what is it, Antichrist Revealed, M4A1, and a whole bunch of others that have come in and stuff like that. I can't keep up with everybody and the repeats and stuff,
right?
Because we do have quite a few people and doing. So I guess what we'll do is, since I'm not seeing any direct questions in this, if you any last statements, otherwise we'll go to the video and kind of do the after show debate aspect of it.
Really, I guess my last statement is I mean, regardless of how the cross exam went, I don't think Tommy has a strong position at all, and I think before the cross exam went south, I was making that very clear because he agreed to a lot of my questions. He agreed that we have resurrection bodies that can fly without an angel. I think I even asked him if there's a resurrection in Matthew 24. I think he said no. I should have just kept reading through my questions because he was answering them very easily. So
yeah,
I mean,
I really wish you would have gotten to your Matthew 24 question, because that would have been understanding of why are you talking about angels?
Right.
So go through
Right.
your Matthew 20, if you can bring up, or if you have it, bring up your Matthew 24 questions, what you would ask, what you were going to ask, so that those that are listening in can get an idea of what you are supposed to go after, and helping to understand why you are bringing in this whole thing about an immediate transportation or and things like that.
Wait, say it again, Kurt. I missed that first part.
Bring up again, because you were prepping with your first questions before you got onto the mark of the beast and free will. You were prepping and stuff. We're asking questions about the angels and were our angels needed.
Right.
The question is dealing with Matthew 24. Why were you asking all these angels questions, and how would it relate to Matthew 24, since I know that's what comes later, which explains that.
Right, yeah, because it's talking about the judgment of Noah. So I mean, again, the day as it was in the days of Noah, so in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. So I mean, again, the Jews are being gathered back into their land, right, by the angels, and then again, the one that is left in the field, that is a righteous person, whereas the one that is taken, they're taken in the judgment that's related to Noah. So again, and then
don't think you're right about that.
Noah
is talking about the rapture. Those who are saved in the rapture are in the ark, and those who are destroyed are.
No, I disagree. The context is the judgment. There's a judge. It's the judgment of Noah, the flood. The example given is the flood, and those that are taken, they're being taken in the judgment, and then the ones that are being left are the righteous. And the idea is they're being left on the earth, and the Jews are being gathered by these angels. And then if you read through to Matthew, 25, then you see that's leading into the judgment of the nations and things like that, and the Gentiles.
You might want to ask God about that and see what He says. I get a lot of information from God, and
yeah, because again, there are those of the pre-mill or pre-trib understanding that tries to take those as the ones being taken is dealing with the rapture. That is but the context, I would say, is not that case, because they're trying to prove the rapture in this. But again, the problem is Matthew 24 does not reveal the mystery of the resurrection rapture.
Right.
And since it doesn't reveal it, because again, it wasn't until Paul actually reveals this fourth resurrection, which contains a rapture with it. None of the others contain a rapture. The Christ did not contain a rapture right at the same time. The one before the millennium does not contain a rapture. And the Great White Throne doesn't contain a rapture.
Right.
Well, there is a clear change after verse 31, and that it goes from the tribulation back to 1948 when Israel was restored as a nation, and the timeline ends there, and then the whole framework of it ends at that point. And first it talks about the people that see that happen in 1948, that they will not all be gone. There will be some left when Jesus returns. So his return is pretty soon, because these people are getting old. They're like getting close to 80.
Well, the problem is when we talk about the return, again, we're not talking about the return just in the air. When we a lot of times the return is talking about the second coming, not the rapture.
Matthew 24 is the second coming. It's not the rapture. Right. There's no rapture before verse 31.
Right, and that's what
31 or before.
But if the rapture is not, if it's talking about the second coming, then when you're dealing with what is it, starting in verse 16, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. That's the second coming. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day of Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So again, it's the ones that did not believe and did not were taken away. Okay, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall be two in the field, one shall be taken and the other left. So the one taken is the one that does not, as is shown here, does not, are the one taken are the non-believers. They're the ones that will not enter the millennial kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the view, and I believe that view fits far better than trying to make these rapture verses. And indeed,
Right. Yeah.
Now, another thing is just a reminder, and when you're dealing with Matthew 24, you got to remember there are three questions at the very start that dictate what is being discussed. And it goes ahead and it says, Jesus goes ahead and describes that there's not going to be one stone upon the other. The temple is going to be destroyed, things like that. And then, where is it? And the disciples come saying in verse 3, tell us, when shall these things be? That's the first question. What things? Well, the temple. Okay. And what shall be the sign of thy coming? Are we talking about the rapture or the second coming?
Right.
Again,
well, it's obviously the second coming, because the disciples had no knowledge of the rapture whatsoever. It's clearly about the second coming. Matthew 24 up to 31 is all about the second coming.
right. And then the third one is, and the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world. So these are the three questions dictating Matthew 24 and 20. Hello, Donnie. Glad you're deciding to come aboard.
Right.
Brothers, how you doing?
Pretty good.
I know this is one of your hot topics. You even wrote a book on it.
It's definitely one of my favorite topics and one of my favorite debates to host and moderate. Tim, that debate was a ton of fun. I enjoyed it. Time flew by.
Right.
When I'm moderating, I don't really like to say in after shows who I think won or lost. I like to give that feeling of, hey, the moderator was neutral and fair. So I'll just say it was a great debate and I really enjoyed it. Now, there were a couple of points I wanted to kind of go back and forth with you on and engage you on.
Sure.
But the debate itself was great. I thought you and Tommy, put it this way, you guys didn't let us down. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
It was fun, but it hurt to watch.
Jim, yeah. Well, I was listening to you and Kurt in the opening of this after show program to see what your thoughts were, and so I did a debate probably going back 3 or 4 years ago, a formal debate with someone named J.D. Morin. He holds to dispensational salvation as well. And a major focus of that debate from his lines of arguments was the mark of the beast as well, similar to you, Tim. So it does seem like those who have that persuasion, because, for example, Kurt, Brother Charles, there's others that I believe are pre-tribulation, and Kurt, you can correct me if I'm wrong, they wouldn't take that approach. Like, I have a lot of books. I have a ton of free grace books in my collection, and the majority of those authors and scholars are pre-trib, and dispensational, but they don't use that same line of argumentation from the mark of the beast. And Kurt, I think you're pre-trib, right? So is Charles. So I think they would take a different approach.
Yeah.
Tim. So I'm curious, how come you think that, even if a lot in your own camp would probably not take that approach in arguing for the pre-tribulation rapture, from your position, why do you believe that that's the stronger approach to take?
Because I think it shows that we're truly not appointed to wrath. Because again, in 1 Thessalonians 5:9, we're told, for God hath not appointed us to wrath. But yet, then all of a sudden in Revelation 14, there's this mark being revealed that anyone who takes it shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God. It says shall. So again, whoever takes it would be, i.e. appointed. Because, and again, appointment in the King James Bible is a very special word, right? So to be appointed would mean something that's set beforehand, an appointment. So if somebody can take the mark and then they'll drink of the wine of the wrath of God, the only logical conclusion is that the church cannot be offered that mark. And again, I've seen other people, I've heard a few different views. God will kill them before they take it. A true Christian just won't take it, and stuff. But none of it is honest with the text, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's all just kind of a cheap cop-out, and you just have to be honest with what the text says.
I think to back up what Tim says, the Galatians 1:8 warning would definitely contradict the everlasting gospel being preached in Revelation 14. And it says to fear God and worship him. So you cannot worship God and worship the beast by taking the mark at the same time. So I think me and Tim would agree that the dispensational salvation there, that's where we get our view from, right, Tim?
Yeah, I would agree.
So it would contradict eternal security in the tribulation.
Tim, do you believe that there can be wrath on a carnal believer's life, which would be distinct from the kind of wrath that an unbeliever would experience? What's your position on that?
Well, I don't, chastisement. I mean, that's an interesting question, because chastisement is from a loving father to his son, which is what God would do to us if we're carnal, right? So yeah. I would have to say no, because the only wrath that I would think of is the actual wrath that puts someone in hell.
Okay. Do you believe our old man or our flesh, the old nature that is in Adam, as compared to our new man that's in Christ? Do you believe the old man is a child of wrath?
The old nature, no.
Okay. Child of...
So you have the circumcision made without hands, right? So the soul is redeemed, but the body is not. But the body is separate from the soul. So your individual person, I would mark that as the soul. So to say, again, that's an interesting.
Well, do you believe?
Question. Yeah.
With a believer, right? For me, I'm born of God. I've been regenerated, justified, predestined for glorification. I've been given the new creature and given the new man, right? Passed from death unto life. I have the old man and the new man. I have the old nature and the new nature. The new nature is in Adam. The old nature's, or no, the new nature is in Christ. The old nature is in Adam. Okay, so that's why Paul says, put off the old man, put on the new man, walk according to the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. 1 John 3:9 says, he that is born of God doth not commit sin, because his seed remaineth in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of God. So if I want to not sin, then I have to walk in the Spirit, walk according to the new man, because he has no sin. He's born of God. But the flesh, the old man, he loves to sin, right? He's in Adam. When I die, the old man goes into the ground, the new man goes to heaven. So do you have that same view of salvation or soteriology in general?
Yeah, that same view. Yeah.
And you don't believe the old man or the natural man, the flesh, is a child of wrath? Is he born of God? Is the old man born of God?
No.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet at least. Waiting to be born of God.
But eventually we'll get a new body.
Yeah, that's the redemption.
Glorified body.
Yeah.
And that's when our condition fully conforms to our position. Okay, well, I don't want to go too much into that. If you could share my screen, I more so wanted to put a couple ideas your way. Okay, thank you, Kurt. So when it comes to wrath in general, I guess my first question would be, and it might be a good idea to pull it up, but in Revelation 6, the martyrs in the fifth seal, right? Revelation 6, they're asking how much longer, essentially, until you start pouring out your wrath. Avenge us, our brothers and sisters that have died on the earth. And God says, rest for a little season. And then at the sixth seal, the sun and moon go dark, the stars fall from heaven. Then you see the sign of the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven to gather together his elect. If the seals, as you can see on the screen here, seal 1, Antichrist goes forth.
Mm-hmm.
Seal 2, you got that the world at war, ripple effect of the world at war is famine, death, starvation, pestilence, so on and so forth. That all seems to be the result of man, the result of a man, the Antichrist, going out to conquering. A shift in geopolitics like that always comprises a war for the most part. War, the ripple effect of war, again, death, starvation, famine, inflation, so on and so forth. Then you get to the fifth seal, right? And then you get the abomination of desolation, at least according to my view. So you get the martyrs. This is where I think the mark of the beast is going to be instituted, the one world government, one world religion. Anyways, so if what you're saying is true, that this is all wrath as well, okay, well then how come when the martyrs ask God, how much longer, O Lord, holy and true, until you pour out your wrath, essentially, how come God didn't say, well, what do you mean? I've been pouring out my wrath this whole time. So how come he says rest for a little season? Then at the end of Revelation 6, it says the great day of his wrath is come, as in, notice here, verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come, it's now here, and who shall be able to stand? So I would argue that everything before that is tribulation with the seals. Now his great day of wrath is here. And that's why in Revelation 7, starting in verse 1-3, and after these things, right? And the angels even say, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So, the earth, the sea, the trees haven't been hurt. And then the first trumpet is sounded in Revelation 8. They have the 7 trumpets. Verse 7, the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. So we have this chronology where you have the seals, sun and moon go dark, the great day of his wrath is come, great multitude that no man could number appear in heaven. I would say that's the rapture. 144,000 are sealed. And then we have God's wrath starting to be poured out. Revelation 8, the first angel, it's got the first trumpet sounded, hail and fire cast from the heavens. Like you see how that flows nicely. So I know there's a lot there, Tim, but it goes back to the original question, setting the foundation. Why didn't God correct the martyrs and basically say, what do you mean? I've been pouring out my wrath. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, again, that would be him. I would say he's prepping the world for the great day of his wrath. So if he's opening these seals, sending the Antichrist, sending these things in the seals, and it's very much him doing it, opening the seals. So,
well, Tim, I got to correct, because he's not sending the wars. He's not sending the famines. Jesus, of course, he's the Lamb. He's the one worthy to open the seal. And each seal that's being opened, it's like a scroll. It's revealing more of the story. Who else has the authority to do that? He's showing things to come. He's showing the events of the end times. I can't do that. John can't do that. Just because he has the ability and the power and the authority to open the seals and reveal more of the story of the end times doesn't mean that he's the one pouring out the wars. No, it's Antichrist is going forth to conquer. And in that conquering and in that rise to power, there's the world at war, which I would argue is probably World War III. And then famine and death. None of this is supernatural. The supernatural, as you can see here, it doesn't start until the trumpet and vial judgments. Now what do we have? Hail and fire mingled with blood that's being rained upon the earth, the mountain cast into the sea, right? You got wormwood, you got the locusts coming out of the bottomless pit. Like these are all supernatural events where everything prior. So I guess I don't find your argument very convincing that, well, this has to be wrath because it's Jesus that's opening the seals. Of course, he has the authority. He's the one that has the power to open the seals. I don't think that equates that this has to be the wrath, Tim.
Okay, Tim, before you answer, pray for wisdom. I need you to show your face.
I'm already on. Uh,
Oh,
that's a screen share of what he's showing. It's showing
my
his
bad.
own chart. It's showing his own chart over again.
My bad. Oh man, I'm showing my.
Can we compare these charts? His irrefutable chart.
Well, it is an irrefutable chart. Pray for
Can
wisdom.
you? Can,
But I want to hear what I said a lot there, and to be fair, I want Tim.
Can,
At the same time, Tim, you did use these arguments in your
Okay,
debate. And again, I don't find it convincing that, well, this has to be wrath because Jesus is the one opening the seals. I mean, who else has the authority to open the seals? You can clearly see on the chart that matches up to the scriptures that these events are non-supernatural. This is the ripple effect of a man going out to conquer and the world being at war. But once you get to the trumpet and vial judgments, these are supernatural because these are God's wrath. And right before it, it says, and the great day of his wrath is come. It's now here. The martyrs at the fifth seal, they're asking God, how much longer till you pour out your wrath? If this has been wrath, God would say, what do you mean, guys? I've been pouring out my wrath. Haven't you seen? So, Tim, I want to see you engage.
I found 15 mistakes on your chart, your irrefutable chart. I found 15 mistakes.
You can go over those so-called
I only
mistakes.
found 2 that were right.
Hold on, Wisdom. I just wanted to, So first and foremost, you have the riders, right? So Satan doesn't do anything without God's permission. So that white horse rider, the Antichrist coming, if again, he has to get permission from the Lord to do these things. And also he is like anointed, right? He goes forth, he goes forth with the crown, going forth, conquering to conquer.
That doesn't mean it's God's wrath though, Tim. So are you saying Antiochus Epiphanes in 1st century BC, he was a shadow of the Antichrist? He was given power by the dragon. Was that God's eschatological wrath too?
Wait, who are you talking about?
Antiochus Epiphanes in 1st century BC. He was a shadow of the Antichrist. He was given power by the dragon. It talks about he had great power, but not of his own, just like the Antichrist. Would you agree there's been many types or shadows of the Antichrist that essentially Satan influenced throughout?
Well, it's obviously not the same thing. You can't use the typology here. We have to talk mainly about the Antichrist because, again, but
that's the whole point, is Satan has always influenced men. Satan will influence the Antichrist. He's probably already influencing the Antichrist. So, no, I know I'm interrupting, but again, your argument here, though, well, obviously God, he is overall, and the power of Satan is limited. He's given a certain degree of power by God. Okay, but none of this indicates.
Why does he come specifically with the mark that will appoint someone to God's wrath? If this isn't from God, if what you're saying in your view is true,
what verse are you referring
to? Again, the Antichrist himself and the mark of the beast.
Yeah, but what verse? It doesn't say. Yeah, it just, if you go through Revelation 6, maybe somebody can pull it up on the screen. All it says is the first seal is open, and there's a man who goes forth to conquer. Then seal 2 is the world is at war. That's natural. Someone's trying to conquer. Shift in geopolitics means there's going to be war. And the ripple effect of war is what? Famine, death, starvation, inflation. This is all a ripple effect of what man is doing. This is the devil's wrath.
So you don't believe that the mark of the beast comes with the beast when the Antichrist comes first?
The mark of the beast comes as per Revelation 13 when the image of the beast is present that can speak, right? That people are forced to worship. It's when the Antichrist is in full power, because at the first seal, he does not have full power. He rises to power at the abomination of desolation, which is at the midpoint of the week right here. That's where he claims to be God. That's when he steps foot in the temple. That's why 2 Thessalonians 2 says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, what day? The day of Christ, the gathering together unto Jesus. That day can't come until the falling away. And that man of sin, the son of perdition, is revealed. He steps foot in the temple of God, claims to be God, and is worshipped as God. So that's when he's at full power. That's after the war, right? He's going to come and he's going to say, we've been at war. The world is in chaos. We've got all this famine, pestilence, inflation. He's going to come in with promises of peace to gain power. And when he's in that state of full power, then he's going to institute the mark of the beast at the midpoint of the week.
Okay,
You
so
think the
you're
church will
so
still be
you're
You,
so
you know
your
what's
view-
interesting, Donnie?
So is your view like you think that the church is gone before the mark of the beast comes?
The
Yes.
believers, they are raptured a little bit after the midpoint of the week, because Jesus says in Matthew 24 that those days, the days of great tribulation, they will be shortened for the elect's sake. Because if those days were not shortened, notice here, 21 to 24, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. And we can get to that, but I don't want to get too off track on my original question, Tim. So I asked you, okay, at the sixth seal, or at the fifth seal, so we've already had all these things happen, which you say are God's wrath. And again, I don't find it convincing. You'd have to prove your case even further that, because Jesus is the one opening. Yeah, he's revealing more of the story of the end times. Who else could do that? Me, you? No, of course not. So at the fifth seal, the martyrs ask, how much longer until they're avenged? And God did not say, what do you mean? I've been pouring out my wrath already. No, he says, rest for a little season. And then you see the sixth seal, sun and moon go dark. And then the Bible is clear right here in verse 17, for the great day of his wrath is come. It's now here. That means everything prior to this was not God's wrath. And when you actually line up the seals, Matthew 24 and Revelation 6, that becomes clear. It's not God's wrath. It's war, it's famine, it's the ripple effect of these things. But once you get into the trumpets, hail and fire cast upon the earth, mountain cast into the sea, locust out of the bottomless pit. Like those are all supernatural events. That right there is the wrath of God. It lines up beautifully. So yeah, Tim, if you could engage that question about the martyrs, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I covered this in my debate opening with Tommy, but the issue is again, there are different types of wrath. There's a general wrath now. I mean, people go to hell right now in their lost condition, they're experiencing wrath. So again, to say that, well, just because it says in Revelation 6, the souls are asking him how long until he judges and things like that, it doesn't mean that everything happening before then is not his wrath.
Is his judgment wrath?
Because again,
is his judgment wrath?
Sure.
Okay, so his wrath hasn't come. He said in a little season.
So what?
And it fits like a glove, because in verse 17, the great day of his wrath has come.
Donnie, allow him to.
Has he not already judged people before then that are burning in hell?
He's judged people before then, but this isn't the eschatological judgment of
And are lost people by nature the children of wrath, even as others?
Yeah, I would say the natural man, the unbelieving man, is a child of wrath for sure.
Okay, so they're experiencing wrath right now.
Yeah, but this isn't the eschatological wrath in terms of the day of the Lord, the trumpet and vial judgments, everything that's been prophesied essentially since day one. Do you believe that the seals, trumpets, and vials are all happening interchangeably, or is there a chronology there, Tim?
Chronology.
Okay.
I don't want to answer for him, but
I
feel like that's the only problem with your chart is that there's a chronology.
Well, I agree there's a chronology.
No, but you have them overlapped.
Oh, with the vials and trumpets, yes. But from the seals into the trumpets, do you see that?
Okay. Wrong question, my bad.
Well, that's okay.
I would see it as chronological, yeah.
Okay. So you see in verse 1 and 2 of Revelation 8, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw the seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. So you would agree the trumpets are sounded after the seals are open?
Yes.
Okay. So once you get into verse 6 of Revelation 8, and the seven angels which had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, I've got it up on screen, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. Is this a supernatural event or man-made?
100% supernatural.
Okay. So then when you go to the seals here, Antichrist going forth to conquer, wars, famine, what here is supernatural?
The pale horse rider, death and hell follow with him.
Yeah, because Oh, come on now. This is obviously symbolic of the man of sin who's going forth to conquer, who has
Well, wait a
has
minute.
death
Wait a
with him.
minute.
He's
The
bringing
white-
death. He's going to be
White Horse
conquering and
Rider. The
killing.
White Horse Rider you just said is the Antichrist, not the Pale Horse. Who's
The
the Pale
pale-
Horse?
The pale horse in which seal?
In Seal 5 or 4 or 5?
Okay, with martyrs.
No. Let me see. I think it's 5.
Maybe
isn't
read
it?
the text.
Yeah, let me look.
Or maybe Kurt, can you pull it up? The Revelation 6 on your end. I've got my slides showing, but maybe you can pull up the. Here, I'll stop sharing.
I think the pale is the green one.
This really wasn't the after party. This was the next debate.
Right? Let's
Hey,
go.
we're Baptists. We can have a Baptist brawl and then.
That's how
there you go.
And
Amen.
coffee, yeah?
that's how we roll.
That's how we roll.
Yeah, let's
We may
spice
not
things up.
actually
Have a
get to
little
the
fun.
debate part, but we will discuss it in some way.
I like all of you. I can't wait for all of us to be in the pre-trib rapture together.
Amen.
Hey.
There we go.
If the pre-trib rapture is true, I've lost nothing. I hope the rapture is pre-trib. That would be great.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing is I don't have a problem with the fact of that there's different levels of wrath and all. So with trying to say the great day of the wrath is come, that again is referring back where you can see in Daniel and dealing with what has been prophesied and all before. And also as you like to mention in Matthew 24. But again, trying to put in a but the problem is where we're looking at is there still wrath, though not a great day of wrath, that specifically looking at, is there still wrath that is coming as a result of opening up the seals?
Yeah, like for example, with Israel in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13, at the same time as Satan is persecuting believers, on Israel, it says there is great wrath upon this people because Israel is going to help bring the Antichrist into power. He's going to step foot into a new temple. And so where there was wrath in 1st century AD, specifically in the 7-year Jewish-Roman War, 66 to 73, there will be wrath again, right? Dual prophecy fulfillment. There's nothing new under the sun. That which has been will be. History repeats itself. So the Jews, Israel, again, they're rejecting Christ. They're going to worship Antichrist as Christ. And so there's going to be wrath upon them. That this isn't the general eschatological wrath upon the whole earth. That starts at the sounding of the first trumpet. So yeah, there's general wrath, but then there's eschatological wrath as well.
See, the thing is where part of the difference is you're dealing with the opening up the seal. You do have the starting of the 70th, or not the starting. That's at the covenant. Now, the reality is Israel is at peace for the first 3.5 years.
Well, how can they be at peace? The world's at war.
Yeah, the world is, but not Israel.
Well, they're
being
part of the world. Yeah, but it doesn't say that Israel is going to be free from any hardships and war.
Yeah, they'll still have the hardships and all. So that's still coming on, and that still comes with God's wrath upon Israel because of their disobedience.
Right.
As we see in the... So you do have wrath that is taking place, but there's a specific day of wrath that's looking for... That was mentioned in Daniel 19. That's what's being, in Daniel's. That's what's being spoken of here.
Yes, I think I mostly agree with what you're saying because the great day of the Lord. I think pray for wisdom needs to be. I'm hearing a lot of.
Someone playing us. Hold on a second. Someone's playing us. Just shut it down because it's overrun. Hold on a second.
It's over.
I think that was coming. I'm not sure. Okay,
It was great from wisdom.
So on the screen, we're looking for Revelation 6, which it looks like
6,
it's
8.
there.
Yeah, Revelation 6:8. So I looked and
Okay,
behold,
go
a
ahead.
pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with power, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So again, first of all, someone's giving them this power, and that would be God Almighty himself. So God's giving them power. We have death and hell fall with them, hell being the holding tank of the lost and things like that. So that is wrath, whichever way you want to spin it.
Okay, hey, can you zoom in a little bit to the if not, that's okay. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I can. It shows it well on the, but not on StreamYard.
no worries. Okay,
What
so
verse?
verse 8. So it's verse 8. If you just scroll up a little bit, brother.
Okay. Let me do it this way so that you can
Oh,
kind of.
So I
Donnie.
think, okay, we can see it. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger. Yeah, so all of this is just explaining that ripple effect, the stages of the tribulation, which eventually leads into the great tribulation. Again, you have Antichrist going forth to conquer. That shift in geopolitics, that necessitates a war. So you get World War III, I would say. Because I think it was Einstein who said if there's a World War IV, it'll be fought with sticks and stones because World War III will be so devastating. So I would say once we're officially in World War III, where the world's at war, that's how we would know that we're in the end times. We're in Daniel's 70th week. So the ripple effect of that is, yes, death, mass death, starvation. Look at World War I, study World War II. This is the ripple effect of those wars, and that's exactly what we're seeing. There's nothing supernatural about this. It's explaining it in a way to tell us what's going on the earth. This is the devil's wrath on the world in general, but eventually the devil's going to shift his wrath at the fifth seal with the abomination of desolation. He shifts it where? Once he's in power, okay, because remember, the man of sin is killed. He's cut off. But the Satan will take control of his body, and he will step foot into the temple, claim to be God. We really don't see anything definitively supernatural, Tim, until the trumpets and until the vials.
Connie,
what you're showing here is not necessarily supernatural.
Hell is very supernatural. I mean, you can't show me any spot. I don't think there's any spot in the Bible where hell is referred to as just a bad thing. No, it's referred to where the dead go.
So he's bringing hell with him. You think he's bringing hell up onto the earth?
Probably like a type of the wrath of hell or something like that. I know for a fact that it has to be wrath. It can't be some poetic, it's just
the devil's
really
wrath.
Time.
It's the devil's, because that's what is going to be. This is great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world until this time. Here's another question I have for you. How come in Matthew 24, you believe Matthew 24 doesn't have anything to do with the church, right? It's Israel?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So believers are already raptured with the events of Matthew 24 largely?
Before Matthew 24, yeah.
Okay. So how come in Matthew 24 we see correlations with the seals, right? Antichrist, false prophets. We see war, death, starvation, martyrs. Why don't we see the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24? Where's hail and fire mingled with blood cast upon the earth? Where are these locusts out of the bottomless pit? How come we don't see the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24, Tim?
That's a great question. Probably because it's meant to be revealed in Revelation.
No, that's wrong. It's because Matthew 24 is describing the tribulation. It ends with Jesus Christ coming in the clouds to gather together his elect after the tribulation of those days. If you want to read about God's wrath period, that's after Matthew 24. That's why you don't see the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. Where do you see God's wrath? After the sun and moon go dark in Revelation 6, which lines up perfectly with Matthew 24. Then we have the trumpet and vial judgments. See, for you, there's a problem. Because, you don't see the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24. You see them in Revelation.
Luke 21 calls them days of wrath.
In in Matthew 24.
There's days of wrath and vengeance upon this people.
That's Israel. We already talked about that. We've already established that.
But he calls it
Rapture doesn't happen until like verse 29.
One at a time. One at a time.
If what you're saying is true, Tim, okay, this precludes your model. This is a major challenge. The pre-wrath model says you have tribulation, then a short time of great tribulation. This is reflective of the seals. Okay, this is all largely man-made, the devil's wrath. Then you have the sun and moon go dark. Great multitude appear in heaven that no man can number. Lines up beautifully with the rapture, what we would expect. And then we have God's wrath poured out on the unbelieving world. God's wrath is what? The trumpet and vial judgments. We don't see the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24 as expected, if the pre-wrath model is true. If we want to see God's wrath, which takes place after the rapture, we have to go to Revelation, specifically 7, 8, 9. That's where we see God's wrath. We don't see it in Matthew 24 because guess what?
Yes, we do, because
it's not 21. God's wrath. Okay,
yeah,
where is the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24? Show us.
I'm not talking about Matthew 24. I'm talking about Luke 21. Luke 21
show me the trumpet and vial judgments
leading up to the coming of the Lord. Luke 21 calls them days of wrath and vengeance upon this people.
That's Israel. That's it. You have your use in Luke 21. You have your second person plural pronoun. Yeah, you have your
rapture happens between verse 14 and 15.
In Luke 21, you have your second person plural pronouns and your third person plural pronouns. What is this? This people. They, them. Is that a second or third person plural pronoun? When it says this or they, that's Israel. So this is wrath upon this. This is a local wrath, a local judgment. But eschatological wrath that we read about in Revelation, that's worldwide. That's general, Tim. We've already established that earlier. So let me ask you again. Where are, and you can use Luke 21, where are the trumpet and vial judgments in either Luke 21, Mark 13, or Matthew 24? They have to be there if what you're saying is true, brother.
Right. Well,
you're arguing from a position of absence.
Okay.
Pray for it. Let him think. Let him answer. Okay. He's already said they're not there, but you said right. You agree. If what you're saying is true.
Hold on, Donnie. While he's thinking now, if it's okay if someone wants to try to answer the question a little bit.
That's true. It's not a formal debate. That's true.
Yeah.
Pray for wisdom.
What were you saying?
The answer to the rapture is after verse 14. It's not in there because Jesus hasn't finished asking the questions or answering the questions that he was asked. He answered those first. That goes through verse 31. And then after verse 31, it goes on to other things. That's why the rapture's not in there, because he's talking to the Jews.
No, the rapture is in Mark 13, Luke 21, and Matthew 24. I'm asking for the trumpet and vial judgments. Pray for wisdom. Okay. Where is hail and fire mingled with blood cast upon the earth? All the trees, all the earth, it's all burnt up. That's a pretty big event. Why don't we see that in Matthew 24? Where are these locusts that come out of the bottomless pit to terrorize the earth? That's a pretty big event. Why is that not in Matthew 24? Well, from the pre-wrath perspective, it's easy, because this is all taking place during God's wrath, which is after the tribulation of those days. And guess what? Matthew 24 is not describing God's wrath period. It's describing the tribulation.
Anybody else?
Well, no, I mean, Luke 21, let me see here. So again, let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, matches Matthew 24, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And let not them that are in the countries there enter thereinto, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And then there shall be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, Upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for look after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. So you already have the Gentiles being mentioned here and things like that as well.
Where's the
So
trumpet
again,
and vial judgments?
They're not
Everything you
there.
just read. I appreciate you giving us a Bible study and reading everything that I've already heard, and I wrote a book on the topic. Where are the trumpet and vial judgment? That was all the effects of war, famine, starvation, pestilence, martyrs, earthquakes, all things that are happening on the earth that are not supernatural. Where's hail and fire mingled with blood?
Are there two comings of Christ? Because the Son of Man comes here, and now you're saying that the judgments aren't there?
No, the Son of Man comes, initiates the phase of the second coming at the end of the tribulation. After the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light. The Son of Man comes in the clouds. But just like the first coming, okay, I'll ask you, Tim, what initiated his first coming? When was his first coming? When he was born in Bethlehem?
Correct.
Okay. And when did it end?
And when he died and rose again.
Okay, so was this like, oh, boom, first coming, or was it a series of sophisticated, interconnected events? He was born, he grew up, he had his ministry, performed his miracles.
So then you do agree in two phases of the second coming of Christ.
Well, I would say it's one event. He comes in the clouds after the tribulation. Okay, he takes us with him. We're not here for God's wrath, which is the trumpet and vial judgments. But we come back with Jesus on white horses after God's wrath for the battle of Armageddon.
So is the judgment seat of Christ during the wrath?
I think the judgment seat of Christ's a good question. The judgment seat of Christ, I think, is right before, because we see the judgment seat of Christ. Crowns are given in, I believe it's Revelation 11. And also in Revelation 20, right before the millennium. So I think rewards are given out right before the millennium.
Now I'm gonna put my thing in for the answer. I go back to the three questions. The question was, when is your second coming? Not what's all going to happen. So that's why Jesus isn't saying every specific thing, and of all the different things being open and things like
exactly.
that. It deals with, he's giving things that already have been clearly known, especially with Daniel, to put in, to watch out for, to say, and a reminder as to, and after the 70th week, that's when his second coming is going to happen. So it's that's part of the thing is you're we needing to go back to Daniel and some of the other Old Testament that gives this setting that Jesus is referring, that assuming the disciples already know, will refer to, and he's giving reminders to Daniel and the other of what is happening. So he wasn't going through a whole course on the tribulation.
He did with this. He did with the seals, though. He had no problem outlining all the major details of the seals. But isn't it convenient for the pre-tribulation rapturous that, well, he just didn't want to give up? Well, he gave zero details about the trumpet and vial judgments, hail and fire mingled with blood, cast upon the earth, where all the trees, all the green grass, all the earth is burnt up. Locusts out of the bottomless pit that go onto the earth to terrorize all of mankind. He just conveniently left out those details. But in the pre-wrath model, this makes sense because you have the tribulation ending after the seals. The great day of his wrath is come at the end of Revelation 6. Revelation 7, you have the great multitude that no man could number. And the question is even asked, where did these people come from? And the answer is given out of great tribulation. Then Revelation 7, 8, and so on. What do we have? The seven angels are given the seven trumpets. The first angel sounds. hail and fire mingled with blood is cast
Well,
upon the earth. It
again,
looks beautifully.
the issue comes again
Tribulation
first and foremost, like Kurt said, the sign of thy coming. That's what they're asking about. And number two, the issue of those being in the book of Revelation that came out of great tribulation. Yeah, it says they that came out of great tribulation. It doesn't say all church age saints. It doesn't say the resurrected body of Christ. It says these that came out of great tribulation.
Yeah, you proved my point, Tim, because his second coming is after the tribulation, which is after the seals. So again, what is the sign of his coming? Yeah, they didn't ask about God's wrath. I'm not done. They didn't ask about God's wrath period. They didn't ask about God's wrath period. They asked about his coming. Everything leading up to his coming is tribulation, the devil's wrath, great tribulation. God's wrath is after his second coming, as in the initiation of his second coming, and it is after the rapture. We don't read about that in Matthew 24 because they asked about his second coming. Yeah, you help prove my point. If you want to read about what happens after the rapture, you have to go to Revelation, specifically Revelation 7, 8, 9. That's where you actually read about God's wrath. That's why you don't find God's wrath in Matthew 24.
Well, before answering SoCal, thank you for the $2. He wants to let us know that the judgment seat of Christ is the great white throne judgment.
This guy might not even be saved, gang. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I think we would all agree that's. I think we could all agree that's an assertion right there.
Preston,
and so he'd have to prove that one. But you could go to Revelation 11 and see where the judgment seat of Christ is. And I can pull it up right now.
It's in my
but
backyard.
it's pretty clear that judgment seat of Christ is for believers.
right.
Okay. Like Paul talks about, right? We're going to be at the judgment, and those Christians who have no works of eternal value, Kurt knows we're all free grace here, their works are going to be burnt up, wood, hay, and stubble. But if you have works of eternal value, gold, silver, precious stones, there's going to be great reward. And yeah, so in Revelation 11, you could pull it up, verse 18. I did a whole video on this. This is after God's wrath, after the tribulation, right before the millennium. It says, because this is after the seventh trumpet. Verse 15 is the seventh trumpet. Verse 18 says this, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants, the prophets, and to the saints. So to me, if this is the time of reward to God's servants, that would be the judgment seat of Christ. And that's another thing. We have to recognize the layout or structure of Revelation. You have pretty clearly, and I lay this out in my book and in my series, you have a chronological series of events from Revelation 1 to 11. That's why they line up perfectly. And then from 13 or from 12 to 22, you have another chronology. Okay, so that's why Revelation 6 is tribulation, lines up with Revelation 13. Revelation 7 is the rapture, great multitude, lines up with Revelation 14. We see Jesus on a white cloud with a sickle. He reaps the harvest of the earth, clearly the rapture. And then after 7 and 14, you have God's wrath. So when you recognize those two-part chronologies, things start to make sense. But if you're a pre-tribber, it's like, well, there's a lot of arguments from silence. Well, we don't find the trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24 because Jesus he didn't give us those details. And, you know, I don't think the pre-tribulation rapture position is just a very strong position, Tim.
Let me ask Donnie a couple of questions.
A couple of things, though, that you really didn't address the pale horse rider.
Yeah, I did.
You really.
Well, I did address it, Tim.
Not to my satisfaction.
Well, yeah, but to your satisfaction, you're the one who's admitting the trumpet and vial judgments are not even found in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13.
For a specific reason.
What
Again,
reason
but
is that?
then you have Luke 21 where it talks about it being days of wrath.
Yeah,
and then
days
you also
of wrath
have the issue that it talks about the Gentiles
upon this people, Israel,
going into his coming, leading up to his coming, and acknowledges Gentiles and Jews. So you have days of vengeance and days of wrath.
Yeah, second person and third person pronouns.
You also haven't really expounded on who the riders are. I mean, what are these riders? Would they not be spirits?
Hold on a second. Jim, he's wanting to interject something.
Oh, New Name had asked a question for Donnie.
Well, I was going to talk to Donnie for a second.
Yeah.
Can I have like 30 seconds or whatever?
I
don't want to interrupt.
No, listen, I need to correct something with Tim said, okay? Because
Sure.
what you're saying is you're making it sound like these horses and, bringing hell with them. Like this is all literal. Like we're going to see this horse, the pale rod. No, these horses in Revelation 6, they're symbolic figures that are representing different aspects of the end times: war, conquest, famine, death. Okay, so the riders on the horses are symbolic, and they're all representing a different aspect of the tribulation, Tim. Okay, so nothing you've shown, the pale horse, nothing in these seals you've shown is supernatural.
Then who's giving the pale horse rider power?
Who's giving the pale horse rider power?
Yes,
it's kill. Symbolic. The pale horse rider is symbolic of the death, famine, starvation. That is the ripple effect of the Antichrist going to conquer.
So being given power is also symbolic.
Given power by who?
Well, I mean, Jesus Christ is opening the seal.
He's opening the seals. What gives power to have worldwide death? World War III. Who's causing World War III? The Antichrist. So all of these events are given their power because of the events that are taking place preceding them.
And who opened the seal to allow these things to happen?
Of course, Jesus is the one with authority to open the seal.
There you go.
You understand, Tim, that this is a scroll with a story, and there's a bunch of seals. Jesus is opening the seals and revealing more of the story to the reader.
And the power that is given to this rider, i.e., would be from Jesus Christ.
No, Tim. I think the audience has already seen. You can't show us trumpet and vial judgments in Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. Everything lines up perfectly where you've got the sun and moon darkened, Revelation 6, then the trumpet and vial judgments. They take place after Revelation 6 and 7 with the great multitude. This lines up beautifully with Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. You could talk a big game about the pre-trib rapture in all of your videos, but I mean, as we can see here, there's too many precluding points for the pre-trib to be true, Tim.
I mean, you would say that, brother, but you can't handle the pale horse rider.
I already handled it. I just educated you, Tim. I just educated you.
Again.
These are symbolic, not literal horses.
Hold on. That's the problem. That's the problem when it comes to these different views, is that there isn't an agreement going on. So let's just accept that part than getting into a back and forth and stuff like this. Let's see.
Donnie, hola. How are you, Ben? How have you been?
Mr. Truth. And Tim, by the way, as you know, no hard feelings.
Great of course, discussion. Brother. Yeah.
You're pre-trib, I'm pre-wrath. And if pre-trib is true, thank God I'm going up. I didn't lose anything. That's great. Because, I mean, who wants to go through World War III and all these things? It's just that I don't see it in the scripture. And if it was there, then, but maybe there's something some of us are missing and pre-trib will be true. So, I appreciate these brotherly interactions.
Okay, let's let New Name ask a couple questions to you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Donnie, how's it going? I just want to ask you a couple questions. So you're saying that it's consecutive. First the 7 seals, then the 7 trumpets, then the 7 vials. Is that right?
It's a good question. It goes into more of a deeper discussion, which I've written a lot about, but I believe it goes seals, then into God's wrath. But God's wrath is represented by the trumpet and vial judgments. I believe the trumpet and vials occur simultaneously.
Yeah. So okay. So is there any commonality between the 7th seal, 7th trumpet, and 7th vial?
Not the seal. The 7th seal is basically silence in heaven and the opening of the trumpets. If I could put, because it's a good question and continue on, but if I could share a screen just to make this easier for the audience, so I can pull up my chart here.
And I'm actually gonna bow out because I'm out here in Mexico. We're celebrating Mother's Day with my wife.
Nice.
Mexico.
But yes, out in Chihuahua, Mexico. But Donnie, I wanted to ask you real quick. Did you see on Facebook the recent post that I did when we're talking about the exiles leaving Babylon, the waves of people leaving? How I found that there's a theme with that, with Christ, the first fruits, then those who are His that is coming, and then the end or the telos.
No, but I'd like to have a look at it.
Yeah, it's like right on my Facebook page, so you can check it out and give it a read, man. It's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Might be something worth doing. And then other than that, I look forward to next month, right? I'll be on there with Charles.
You got the great OSAS debate, my man. And yeah, I'll look over your posts, and we've had many discussions on end times. Well, your new name's Truth and Telos, so yeah, we could have another discussion on it for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it, and God bless everybody. Have a good night.
God bless. So, yeah, to answer your question really quickly, hopefully you can tell by this visual here, your question about the relationship. Yeah, I see a relationship between all of your trumpets and vials, but in terms of your seals, I see a strict chronology. Seal 7, God's wrath begins, and then you have your trumpet and vial judgments taking place, but they're happening
I gotcha.
concurrently, might be the right word. So yeah, I see a relationship basically between your 7th trumpet and 7th vial, and then you would have the battle in Armageddon and the millennium, if that helps.
All right, so now I just have to ask. I mean, you say that the first trumpet is obviously the language, the hail mingled with fire, and all the trees are burned up.
Right.
You say it's the wrath, but what do you think this is referring to? Just the wrath in general, or?
Oh yeah, because you can see that there's a chronology. For the great day of His wrath is come. Who shall be able to stand? Revelation 7. After these things, well, what are these things? Well, what we just read about in Revelation 6. And I find it interesting here. Notice in verse 3, what are they saying? Hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees. Okay, so in terms of God's wrath, which we're about to read about, the earth, sea, nor the trees have been hurt. So then we go into Revelation 8. Now the 7th seal is opened, because it's the start of God's wrath, right? And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And Revelation 7, the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire. So this is after the 144,000 are sealed. And now the first angel can sound the trumpet, and we have hail and fire cast upon the earth. The third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. So your question is, what is this exactly? Yeah, I think it's exactly what is described, that you have hail and fire thrown upon on the earth, and there's going to be just devastation, brother.
Okay. Now let me just ask one last thing. So let's say the 4 horsemen. This is literal war, literal famine. There's no spiritual connotation.
Yeah, I think.
Asking.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the horses, everything described there is symbolic of events that are going to be taking place: conquest, war, famine, pestilence, starvation. So I don't think like we're going to be seeing just a literal horse riding with a rider. No, I think the horse and the rider, each one, is giving us more of the story of what's going to happen.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Okay, before we go on, 2 things here. First of all, Orlando is a new member. Glad to have you here and being a part and being a member and all. Also, I did have one where I just lost it. $2 question from SoCal again. He's wanting to know our thoughts on Revelation 11:18 and Daniel 7. So Revelation 11:18 is, and the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servant the prophet, and to the saints, and them that fear thy name, small and great, and should destroy them which destroy the earth. Now, And then Daniel 7:10 says, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000s stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were open. Any thoughts? Is this related? Is this not?
What was that scripture reference again, Kurt?
Revelation 11:18 and Daniel 7:10.
Coming time of death, they should be judged.
Yeah, I highlighted it, so it's also on the screen.
Okay, and then Daniel 7 what? Oh, okay, right there, Daniel 7:10.
Have you guys heard of this guy named Mark 13 Records YouTube channel?
The time of the dead. Oh, the time of the okay.
Yeah,
See, the thing is, though,
I would say it probably lines up.
you know,
It's
and
interesting.
again, you know, I did a whole video on this, and it's a good question, but you have to understand, and I'm just going from my understanding, the model that I hold to, is you have the first resurrection, which is the rapture, and then you have God's wrath, and it's the first resurrection that rules and reigns with Christ during the millennium. But once, right before the millennium starts, okay, if what Revelation 11 is, I think, clearly saying, you have the judgment seat of Christ, you have right before that the battle in Armageddon. And where's the false prophet? Where's Antichrist cast, right? Where's all of Antichrist's armies? What happens to them? They're all destroyed. So, you know, there is in a way a judgment there of the dead. The dead are, you know, in Revelation 20 talks about how the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were up. Well, unbelievers are never going to live again. To live, you have to be saved, right? Pass from death unto life. And so the pre-wrath and pre-trib positions are somewhat similar, where you'd have an additional. So the dead live not again until after the 1,000 years were up. At the great white throne judgment, I believe simultaneously you'll have the glorification of anybody who got saved during God's wrath and during the millennium. Because they're going to have to be glorified too. Well, when? Well, the dead live not again until after the 1,000 years were up. So that would be after the millennium.
So are you stating that the saints, after the pre-wrath rapture, are not going to get their glorified bodies until after the millennial?
No, so the first resurrection would comprise all believers of all time up to that point, right? So they are glorified. That's a time of glorification. They get to rule and reign with Christ for 1,000 years. But what about people who get saved after that? What about people who get saved during God's wrath or during the millennium? I think we would all agree that people could get saved after that, after the rapture. So when will they be glorified? Because if we're already ruling and reigning in the millennium in glorified form,
See,
well, what about those? Yeah, go ahead.
That's where we, in putting in this mystery rapture and putting this the first resurrection in Daniel unto eternal life, that goes into the understanding of at the second coming. And then the resurrection unto everlasting condemnation, that's at the great white throne.
Is the mystery rapture a resurrection?
Yeah, it's a resurrection rapture.
Yeah.
It's both. Because
Okay, so
those that are dead in Christ are resurrected. Us who remain alive are caught up and changed. So that's a resurrection / rapture. This is the only one that's different than the other three that are mentioned.
Kurt, if you don't mind, can you share my? I appreciate what you're saying. If you could share my screen real quickly. And my wife's called me up. She made me some late night food. So I'll just spend a couple minutes here if you guys want to interact, because I think that's a good point. Here on my slide, I have the resurrection of the dead overview, right? So we got Christ the first fruits,
right?
The first resurrection,
Which
then
we would agree with.
the second resurrection. So how I have this laid out, as per 1 Corinthians, for as in Adam all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. The resurrection,
right?
But every man in his own order. So I keep the resurrections to 3 because that's what I see here in terms of that which is given to us. Christ the first fruits, I would say, is his resurrection, right? Anybody who understands anything about farming, before the main harvest comes up, you have the first fruits, the first little bit.
We don't argue on that one at all.
Okay, so boom, so we got that one. Afterward, they that are Christ at his coming. So I would argue that's the first resurrection. That's the rapture.
That's where we would disagree. That's at his second coming.
See, right. And I would argue, the coming of the Lord.
Yeah. Again, we go to Daniel 12:2, and it talks about the first resurrection is unto eternal life.
Yeah.
But you have the Israel who gets their inheritance. You're stating that the Israelites from the pre-wrath rapture to the second coming will never receive their inheritance.
Well, no. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
No, that's before. I'm talking pre-wrath rapture to the actual second coming, where Christ sets up the millennial kingdom. All those who die in believing will not receive their inheritance.
Anybody who receives the inheritance of ruling and reigning in the millennium, whether Jew or Gentile, has to get saved before the rapture. Now, I just want to finish my point here, but every man in his own order. So you guys, I've heard some pre-tribulation rapturists, they have 7 resurrections. I've heard some, they got 6. But all we have is 3 here. We got Christ the first fruits. Afterward, they that are Christ at his coming. His first coming was in Bethlehem. His second coming is the coming of the Lord, our gathering together unto him. That's the rapture. And then you have, then cometh the end. So we have 3 max. We have the order of the resurrection. Again, Jesus Christ, the first fruits. The rapture is the first resurrection. And then after the millennium, which works out perfectly, because you need a resurrection after the millennium in order for believers who got saved during God's wrath and the millennium, they need to experience their glorification. But this whole secret resurrection or additional resurrections, I want to know where those are. I'll ask Tim. Where are those in 1 Corinthians 15?
Well, again, it's first it's referenced as a mystery in 1 Corinthians 15.
But we know what that mystery is. It's given to us.
What, the glory? Oh, the changing of the body?
Yeah, the fact that we're going to get a new body. There's another mystery of the Gentiles. The fact that we've always been part of God's plan.
The context of 1 Corinthians 15, it already dealt with that earlier in 22 to 24 there, the whole thing of the Daniel 12 resurrection. Then in 50 to 53, you have Paul dealing with the mystery resurrection of the body of Christ, talking about those that are in Christ.
No.
And actually, if you match it.
That's not there, Tim.
If you match it with Revelation.
So are you saying, that resurrection, which is a huge resurrection, it's not here in the order? Jesus is just leaving it out.
That you mean Paul?
Or Paul's just leaving it out?
Yeah, no. He explains Daniel 12 here, and then in 50 to 53 he explains our mystery resurrection.
Daniel 12 is talking about the glorification of the body. We experience the glorification of the body at his second coming, which is the rapture.
No, it's just talking about the resurrection.
No, the resurrection is the rapture.
Everlasting shame in what was it? Everlasting contempt.
That's where we disagree.
Yeah, because John 5:28 to 29, which I have here on the screen, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice and shall come forth. They that have done good unto the resurrection of life, Again, Revelation 20 says the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were up. But notice this, and they that have done evil under the resurrection of damnation. So that would be the great white throne judgment. But the resurrection of life, this is after the millennium. This is the resurrection of anybody who got saved during God's wrath and during the millennium. They don't get to rule and reign in the millennium, but they still get a glorified body. Unfortunately for them, it's not until after the millennial reign. But do you see how, now I just want to say this, then you can respond. The pre-wrath rapture view, it's consistent. It makes sense. We don't have to make all these arguments from silence. 1 Corinthians 15, we got 3 resurrections. Pre-wrath rapture, 3 resurrections. Christ the first fruits, the rapture, and then after the millennium. Flows nicely. But you guys are all like, well, I mean, we got a secret one here. People like Nick Sayers like, well, we got 7 of them. I mean, what's going on here?
And that's the issue, is that you won't accept mystery as something not revealed until it gets revealed.
Well, when it says mystery, it explains to us what the mystery is. How about you? I want Tim to pull up the mystery passage, and I'll show you that it explains what it is. Here's the thing. A lot of people did not understand. What do you mean? We're going to get a new body? What about this body that I have? What about bodies that just turn to dust because they've been in the graves for so long? Like, yeah, this is a mystery to people. Like, how can we fathom a glorified body? How can we fathom, it's like trying to explain colors to a blind man, a lot of these eternal truths. So it is a mystery, but Paul is telling us, no, this is literally, you're going to have a new body. You're going to be raised from corruptible to incorruptible. He's not saying, well, there's a secret, mysterious resurrection.
Yeah, but you're missing the problem with that. The problem with that is, again, 1 Corinthians 15, and was it 1st or 2nd Thessalonians?
Pull it up. Pull up the verses like I've been doing, Tim.
It's
you make so many assertions, and then we pull up the verses, and we realize your assertions aren't backed by the scriptures. So pull up this.
They're 100% backed by the scriptures.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, we've proven over the last hour that they're not.
You've still proven the pale horse rider. You still can't prove that.
No, listen, we've already proven there's not going to be.
I can also
Tim, there's not going to be a horse riding around with a pale rider.
Resurrections are in order. You have Revelation 19, the marriage of the Lamb. You have Revelation 20, the first resurrection. The marriage of the Lamb is where we are. And then Revelation 20, you have your Old Testament and tribulation saints. And it is chronological.
No. That's all conjecture, storytelling.
No, it's not.
The first resurrection, Tim.
The beast and the false prophet.
The first resurrection
are cast in the lake of fire, Revelation 19. Then in Revelation 20, the beast and the false prophet are still there in the lake of fire. So the marriage of the Lamb happens before the first resurrection, and that is where we are. And that's also, we've already come back with the Lord on white horses before Revelation 20, verse 4.
Okay, Donnie?
That's true. We come back on white horses in Revelation 19, but we were already raptured in Revelation 7 and 14. It's a 2-part chronology. That's where you have the great multitude that no man could number. And it matches up with Revelation 14 with Jesus Christ on a white cloud with a sickle reaping the harvest of the earth. Sound familiar? Sounds exactly like the rapture.
You hold to a mystery resurrection. You just have it placed in the wrong spot.
It's not a mystery resurrection because
because you're saying there's 4 resurrections like I am.
No, I said there's 3.
There's 3. There are Christ that is coming. When is that then? That's when he comes. That's Revelation 20, verse 4. That's
not Revelation 20,
That's
dude.
where the resurrection is.
It's the coming of the Lord as described in 1 Thessalonians 4. His first coming was in Bethlehem. His second coming, believe it or not, is when he comes to rapture believers. That's his second coming.
So he descends.
Revelation 20 is the end of that phase.
So you're holding to 4 resurrections still.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Yes,
show me the 4. No, I want you to name the 4.
You just said he's going to come down. He's going to call us up. We're going to be changed at that point, and then we wait a little while, and then in Revelation 20, verse 4, you have the first resurrection. The only difference is you put it in the tribulation, and I don't. So you hold to 4 resurrections.
You're straw manning me, Tim.
I'm not straw manning. That's what
you're straw manning me.
Is it one coming or 2?
I've already explained that you have Christ.
Is it one coming or 2, Donnie?
Tim, the beginnings of your sentences are starting in the middle of mine as I'm trying to show why you're straw manning me. Okay, listen. We have Christ the first fruits. That's Christ's resurrection. That's 1. They at his coming. That is the rapture. That's coming 2. That's the resurrection. The second resurrection comes after the millennium for anybody who got saved during God's wrath and that's 3. Where's this 4th one?
what about 21st 4, the tribulation?
How's that a
saints?
resurrection? That's just us coming back with Jesus for the battle in Armageddon. Where's the resurrection there?
What? Revelation 20:4 is the resurrection.
No, it says this is the first resurrection. That is who is ruling and reigning with Christ for 1,000 years. Pull it up, Revelation 20. Pull it up.
So you're denying that them being given to rule and reign, there's no resurrection there. It's just them ruling and reigning. That doesn't
No,
make any
because
sense.
it's clarifying, because it says the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years are up. So who is the one living during the millennium? It's the first resurrection, those that were raptured at his coming. Telling us who's ruling and reigning with Christ.
Believers, but not any believers between the pre-wrath rapture and the actual second coming.
Kirk, can you repeat that?
But not the believers that will rule and reign between the pre-wrath rapture and the actual second coming. They will not receive any inheritance. That includes the Israelites.
Who cares? If Israelites rejected Messiah during the tribulation, why in the world do they deserve to rule and reign in the millennium?
The Israelites who die.
Israelites who die after the rapture.
Yeah, because there are going to be people who believe. That's
they should have got saved. They should have got saved.
144,000 that were there. They will be going out witnessing and sharing. They will be the ones protecting everything.
Kurt, now you're misrepresenting me. Listen, you have the tribulation, great tribulation. Anybody who gets saved, including the Israelites. Remember, there's great wrath upon this people. So any Israelite who gets saved, when Jesus Christ comes in the clouds, right? He that endures to the end, the same shall be saved. Those days shall be shortened for the elect's sake. Okay, those that are alive and remain, we'll look up. We're going to see Jesus Christ coming in the clouds. Okay, so anybody who gets saved leading up to that, including Israelites, they don't have to die. You can be alive and remain. You'll be glorified for the millennium.
But there will be the death of believers.
The death of believers before the rapture, they're going to be glorified. They're coming back with Christ.
No, because again, how can they be glorified if I'm talking about after your pre-wrath rapture?
Of course, after the rapture, anybody who gets saved, by definition, it's after the rapture. It's during God's wrath. So those are people who weren't saved prior. They got saved. That's their fault. They're going to have to wait until after the millennium. But there's going to be plenty of people, Old Testament, New
Israel that gets killed do not receive their promised inheritance.
Yes, any Israelite who gets saved prior to the rapture.
See,
that's how it is. If a Jew rejects Christ, before the rapture, that's their loss. They're going to hell.
You're rejecting the Abrahamic covenant and its promise to all believing Israelites.
Yeah, all believing Israelites.
Right, and there will be believing Israelites after the pre-wrath that actually die, and if they die, they're not going to get resurrected.
That's their fault. They rejected Messiah prior to Jesus coming. Now Jesus Christ comes in the clouds. Anybody who's not saved, guess what? It's too late. They're going to experience God's wrath.
No,
but that doesn't mean they can't be saved, because God has 144,000 sealed servants or evangelists. They're going to preach the gospel during God's wrath period. Okay. These are just arguments from emotion. Oh, you're saying those poor Jews who rejected Messiah, they're not going to be able to rule and reign with the millennium. You got that right. They should have believed. They should have repented and trusted Christ. Then they would have that inheritance during the millennium. They rejected Christ. That's their fault. They're going to hell.
No,
I mean, that's scripture. These arguments from emotion ain't going to.
Then why even have the 144,000 sealed and out?
In order that people can get saved during God's wrath.
Yet
God doesn't leave this earth without a witness.
Because it does talk about with Israel that Israelites will die, others believers will die, and they do not go into the millennium then.
That's right.
They have to wait until whatever, so they don't receive any inheritance. See, that's where the problem lies.
That's not a problem. That's what the scriptures teach. If you want inheritance, you have to get saved in time for Christ's second coming.
No, it's part of the covenant, though.
The covenant is what? To all believers.
Israel.
Okay, well, listen, listen, my food's getting cold. I've already gone 10 extra minutes. You know, I don't see you guys addressing anything, but that's fine. You know, these mystery raptures, extra resurrections, trumpet and vial judgments are found nowhere in Matthew 24. We'll just leave it up to the audience. But this has been fun.
We understand that.
Okay. You guys, I love you guys.
Love you too, Donnie.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I understand the pre-wrath. It has its problems too. In certain areas where it's harder to explain and things like that. And the pre-trib rapture is actually embedded in the covenants. And I'm talking from the Abraham covenant on, because all those different covenants are given to the nation of Israel, not for they rejected before. No, that's the reason why the church is raptured out before the 70th week, is because we are not under a covenant.
And also, again, like I was trying to work up to with Donnie, is the resurrections are in order in Revelation 19. You have the marriage of the Lamb, the body of Christ is there. We've come back on white horses. Revelation 20, you have the resurrection of the tribulation saints and the Old Testament saints. Mm-hmm. And everything. And then come at the end, I actually would agree there's a millennial rapture at that point. I would agree with that right there, right before the judgment of the condemned dead, and then everything's basically fulfilled at that point. So, I mean, there's a fourth resurrection. It's in Revelation 19, and they are chronological because the beast and the false prophet are cast in the lake of fire in Revelation 19. Then in Revelation 20, it says the beast and the false prophet are still there, showing that it's completely chronological. So no, we are not in the first resurrection. The church can't be there. Otherwise, who are those people on the white horses? Oh, it's the tribulation saints. Well, or the pre-wrath people that were raptured. Well, thank you. You have a fourth resurrection. Yours is just in the wrath of God, whereas mine is long before that.
Yeah, I asked them about that judgment seat, and they took us to Revelation 11. It says, those that fear thy name. I mean, you go up to most Christians, a lot of them don't fear the name of the Lord. So, I mean,
see, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brother Jim. I didn't mean to. What did you say?
I'm done.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, Kurt, you made such a good point with that when we were doing the debate prep, because it's true. Like, I wasn't sure about Tommy because he just, I don't know. Hearing him talk about the resurrections didn't make any sense and stuff like that. But Donnie is just flat out like, hey, they're gonna go up at like the 6 whatever, like halfway through or wherever he put his timeline at, right? But if we've already gone up and then Christ comes back down again, you have a fourth resurrection. You have a mystery rapture. Yours is just placed in the time of God's wrath. Whereas
he's eliminating that. When his actual second coming, he's saying there is no. But when you're reading in Matthew 24, he's referencing to the second coming,
right?
Not to a resurrection or to an in between resurrection rapture in the 70th week. He's actually referring to this actual second coming, and that is when the actual first resurrection under eternal life is going to take place in Daniel chapter 12.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm getting is a black screen for me. Am I on?
Not face, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
So that's okay. You don't have to show yourself.
Well, anyway, there was just so much wrong with what Donnie was saying. I don't know where to start on that.
Well, that's part of the problem.
That chart had numerous errors on it. I went through that whole chart one day.
Yeah.
I dug it up on the internet, went through the whole chart. It has numerous errors, and he said it's an irrefutable chart. He's brainwashed so many people with that chart. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. See, the interesting thing, and that's part of the whole deal, is we don't agree on the order that there's the pre-wrath states versus pre-trib. We don't agree on the order either. And we don't agree on all the text and things like that. So that is the thing. The other thing is can there be wrath? Yes, because again, God has his wrath upon the children of disobedience, even now. So there's that wrath upon the children of disobedience, even in the millennial or in the tribulation and all. So God's wrath is during that time. But is there a different wrath that is really specific that is going towards Israel itself?
Mm-hmm.
So you have God's, in that way, God's wrath upon the disobedience, that of the things that are coming as a result of the Antichrist. Because again, God is having it set up for the Antichrist to set up this fifth kingdom. And in setting up this fifth kingdom, that's when it comes to the end, that will be the end of the times of the Gentiles. So again, you do have this wrath and all coming upon Gentiles, upon Christians, or not Christians, but the saints. Because again, the Antichrist will be going after the saints before the halfway mark. But what will happen is in the halfway mark, when he's proclaimed he's God, and now he's breaking the treaty with Israel, and he's going after Israel. That's why it's the great wrath.
Yeah.
Because
anybody notice where those saints, those tribulation saints, where they are in Revelation 19?
Well, they're Jews. So
they're on the guest list. They're not part of the bride. They're on the guest list.
Yeah, that's part of the other thing, is dealing with the guest list. Who are the guests would be Israel. If you're with the bride being the church, and of course there's kind of so that, like I said, it's there is a difference in how we interpret, how we see, and also how we deal with the Old Testament and its setting up. That's part of the other thing when you're dealing with a pre-trib.
Let me ask Tim something. So,
What's up?
in Revelation 19, when Christ returns, and I'm not looking at it, but there are saints that come with him, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that we see in, I guess, First Thessalonians, right? In the air, and there's people with him. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Are those not the people that have already passed? Let's say Christian people that have already passed and are coming with him? Is that right, or is that wrong?
Or you mean without like a rapture of the church, or what do you mean exactly?
Right, without a rapture, without any kind of a rapture. It's just these are the people that have passed on who are Christian, and they're coming with them. Is that right? Or
if it's outside of the rapture, then whoever is coming back with, it wouldn't make any sense without a rapture.
Yeah.
Well, people have died who were Christian. They're under the altar.
Right, but we couldn't.
Right.
But they won't be coming back with the Lord because they're not resurrected yet.
Yeah, the souls.
Okay.
The souls are there.
They're,
No resurrected bodies.
they're kind of temporary body or disembodied.
Right.
So that's the other part. The one that's coming back physically, I would hold as the church.
Okay.
Okay. There was someone in here, but they left.
I mean, I thought Donnie did pretty good. I mean, obviously, there's this, especially with Revelation, there's always going to be differences.
Yeah, and
And
that's what I'm saying.
He was constantly filibustering me and Tim.
That's why I
Tim after I was gone.
Yeah. Well, I knew with you, Jim, I knew he would more filibuster you and not allow. But at the same time, we're having a hard time sometimes hearing you. You're not coming in as clear. So sometimes when you're speaking, I can't really hear what you're doing.
Are you talking about me?
Dean, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you, so you need to show your face.
I mean,
then we can bring you on.
Hey, Kurt, were you saying that you can't hear me very well, or were you talking about somebody else? Oh,
Jim.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Me?
Yeah, you're sometimes you're muffled.
Oh, that's probably just how I speak.
That may be, but
I'm very muffled in real life, so.
again,
I mean, there's a couple points.
You need to show yourself in the backstage, otherwise you're not coming on.
There's a couple points that are kind of off topic, but I kind of thought that, the four horsemen. I'm thinking that it really is one rider. It's just kind of shown in four different aspects with the red and the green and all that. And the other thing was when he hands him the scroll, I'm thinking, okay, well, the scroll, this has to be God's word, right? This would have to be his word if it's on the scroll.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I would hold, obviously I would, I try to stick as much to the literal exegesis of the text as possible. So if the Bible says they're 5 or 6 horsemen, then they're 5 or 6 horsemen. I wouldn't try to lump them into different aspects and things like that just for sake of what the text says. And yeah, I would agree, like that scroll is like the word of God, or supernatural word of God in heaven or something.
One second, guys. Aladdin is a Muslim, a man. I first met him on Troop Cartel, and Janet, he's been pulling up on the stream. So I'm just letting you know, Kurt.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Well, good morning, everybody. Am I coming clear?
Morning.
Yeah, am I coming clear?
Yeah,
we're hearing you.
Well, thank you very much. God bless you. Actually, this is my first time to join the stream. I don't know even what stream I am in right now, what channel. But Janet told me I joined her twice, and she said that she will come live, and she will let me join the stream. So therefore, I just find the stream link in Janet's channel. So I joined. So the Janet is here somehow. So I don't know.
No,
say that you know me.
This isn't Janet. This isn't Janet's show. This is an after debate show. She comes on later.
Oh, I do apologize. My apology. I thought that's Janet because the link is posted in her. I mean, she pinned the link in her channel. So therefore,
right. No, that's though it's the layman seminary. There are four of us that do, or actually 5 of us that do different things. And so in doing that, but we're all using the layman seminary as our platform. And so in doing that, so I understand it can get confusing. So that's not a problem. We're doing an after debate dealing with what that was dealing with the pre-trib rapture and the pre-wrath rapture. So that's our focus on this particular program.
Right.
Oh, okay. So I do apologize, but I want to know, if you don't mind, what do you mean by, you said Lemon Seminary? So what is this seminary all about?
Okay.
Because that's the first time about it. Please.
The layman seminary, again, was started by Charles, Janet's husband. He did it about 15 years ago, maybe even longer. And what his focus is to provide seminary level Christian education and also discussions and things like that on the seminary level to the average lay person. So, and we're trying to take what some of the stuff because again, Charles just graduated. I'm a seminary graduate. Not everyone is, but we're trying to take higher level learning and bring it to the regular people and and allow them to ask questions, things like that, so that they can understand better and help them grow in their Christian life.
Okay, with all due respect to you, because when I was in Janet's channel just last time, I think a couple of days ago, she was live. It was so late night, I think, in her place in the Philippines, and the internet was somehow bad for her, because of the rain, I think. So she mentioned something about engaging with Muslims, and she mentioned the name of someone, Charlie, or something like that. And she said, when I come live, so we can discuss about it. So I thought that you are engaged with Muslims in a respectful, rational discussion. So therefore, I decided to join you. I hope I did not disturb you in any way.
Oh no. Again, since you're new, I can understand you and not understanding the different things that we do here. So I don't consider you coming aboard being a disruption. Again, it's just part of the. Sometimes people come in not sure what's going on, and you got to explain yourself. And this is a good thing, because what it does is it helps us to remind everybody what is our purpose, what are some of the different things we do, and things like that. So sometimes we're really focused. Other times we may be more opened and things like that. Like today, we're open on having people on the platform, but we're focused on this particular debate item. That's what
Which
we're
will be
doing right
completely
now.
foreign to you.
Okay, are you engaged with Muslims in any way? I mean, if you don't mind me asking you, do you have some discussions with Muslims or something in the past or in the future? I mean,
I've had a few discussions, but not a whole lot. We haven't really been able to talk a whole lot because I don't run into a whole lot of Muslims myself in my area.
well, now you run through me. I'm a Muslim, and I'm not as young as you think. Maybe I'm almost more than 6 years old.
Okay.
I'm not young, and I've lived in the Philippines more than 25 years. So I speak even Filipino language fluently, Tagalog. Married to a Filipina for a quite long time, more than 33, 34 years.
Right.
Therefore, I joined Janet because she's a Filipina and she said from Cebu. I traveled all around the Philippines. I love the Philippines. I love Filipinos. And I engaged actually in reality in several discussions with several ministry in the Philippines, like Iglesia Ni Cristo, Protestant, Catholic, Born Again, Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, etc., all around. And we had a lot of good, community services together, discussions together. They asked me about my faith. I asked them about their faith with love and respect. Of course, we don't,
Okay.
insult each other in any way, in anyhow. So therefore, I thought maybe somehow me and Janet also can build those bridges again online. Because she said that she knows, and she mentioned actually a name of a person. I don't want to mention his name. He's one of the worst ever Christian apologists that you can imagine in your life, and I'm sure that you not accept him as well. She even made her last stream, her last live stream was against that Christian apologist. She played video about him, and he even
Well,
attacks. Therefore, I joined here. I thought that
I understand. Just to let you know, Janet is in the Philippines. I'm in the United States. So that's part of the differences, and also since you're in the Philippines, you're able to hear Janet a lot easier than like us. And Janet reaches a whole different audience than normally we do because we're 12 hours difference and things like that. So that's part of the other difference that does take place, and that's why there is so many. Basically, we're like a school, if you want to put it that way. And in the school, we have different teachers doing different things, teaching different subject matters and stuff like that. And that's what's happening here. So let me take a quick look. I'll see if there's a schedule for when Janet will be on.
No, that's okay. Whenever she comes live, I have her subscribed.
Okay.
I get notification right away. Therefore, I joined you now because notification says that she's live. So therefore,
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, is it notifies anything that the layman seminary does if you're on notification, but it doesn't. You'll have to specifically look to see if it's Janet or if it's something else that we're
Can you
doing.
post me the link for your channel, please, in private chat, so I can also subscribe to your channel? Maybe I can join you sometime live, because I travel a lot. Sometimes I'm in the Middle East, sometimes I am in Southeast Asia, sometimes Egypt, Africa, different places. So maybe I can join you live sometimes. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, Monday is normally the best time to join mine because it's an open Q&A. And it starts 7:30 Eastern U.S. time, which is which would be 7:30 in the morning in the Philippines.
Can you post me the link of your?
No, it's I can't do a link. It will just notify you. That's what I'm saying. I haven't created the program. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this Monday. I'm being called I have to see if I actually have to go for jury selection, and I won't know until Sunday night. And if I have to go for jury, and then if I get selected, I probably won't be doing the program.
No, the point I'm trying to say here that now you are live stream, so I would like to know what channel are you using, so I will subscribe to this channel.
Oh,
so when
no, it's this channel, the Layman Seminary.
This is the name
we use the same platform. So
okay, with Janet, the same okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Okay,
we're using the same platform in the Layman Seminary through StreamYard, though we go to a bunch of different places like YouTube, Lincoln, other to where we show the show, but we're all doing it through the same StreamYard platform called the Layman Seminary.
Okay, you are telling me that Janet channel is the Layman Seminary as well.
Yes.
Yes, so therefore, the name of the channel is Janet. So I thought you have another channel. Yeah, therefore.
So she usually will put her name on and things. Same way, we each have our own little titles, so it will put it up, and when you're looking, you can see kind of who's doing what.
Okay, I got you. I thought it's totally different channels. Thank you very much. I appreciate you for having me. God bless you. I wish you all a good night and sweet dreams to everybody, even though it's afternoon here. God bless you.
You too. Have a good
night. All of you.
Thank you for coming in and allowing us to share our program. Okay, let's get back to the subject here. I know that was a break and all, but
right.
So anyways, as we were talking about, we were dealing with also how in a pre-trib understanding, we do look at the covenants. And the thing is when you're looking at the covenants, except for 2 of the covenants, they're all to Israel. Do you know which 2 are not for Israel?
Which ones?
The first and second Noahic covenant.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Those were to the first one was Noah in the world. If you get on the boat, you'll live. Second is the second Noahic was after, where the rainbow, the not going to flood the world, the thing of some form, at least a starting of some form of government, and then also again the allowance to eat animals, but don't do the blood. Because life is in the blood and all.
Right.
So, that's what's, but every other covenant is given to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other debates on the covenant aspect, which I hold, is the covenants are not about being saved.
Yeah.
They're about the sociological framework for Israel. And so in dealing with that, that covenant is given to all Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, all those that believe, that would include pre-wrath to the actual second coming, receive this blessing inheritance.
Right.
So to try to say that they don't get their covenant, you can't say that because what is it? Galatians 3. Let's put it this way. Paul speaks in a Galatians 3. Where is Galatians? Here we go. 15. Paul says, yeah, brethren, I speak after the manner of men. So he's speaking in men's terms, though it be but a man's covenant. So he's just referencing, okay, let's just deal with men's covenants. Yet, if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth it or addeth thereto. So you can't be now adding in this rapture, pre-wrath rapture, resurrection idea and change up the already established everlasting covenant
Right.
of Abraham. So that's part of the thing of, so that's part of the problem is when you're dealing with this, everyone's trying to more go into the New Testament, but you really got to start with the Old Testament and build.
Right.
And you have to start with the Noahic covenant. You have to deal with the promises in even the Mosaic covenant, because again, the Mosaic covenant is not an unconditional covenant. But this was one thing that we Tim and I talked about, but he wasn't really able to bring it out all that. And that was in Deuteronomy 28. Under the Mosaic covenant to Israel, if you disobey me, the curses will come on, even to the place that you're scattered to the four corners of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get into Deuteronomy 30, especially 1-3.
Yeah.
It talks about if you turn your heart back to the Lord, in other words, you get saved, but also repent and confess Jesus as Lord. Sounds like Romans 10, 9 and 10 there. And so in dealing with that, what is happening is that God says, then I will bring you back into the land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amen.
So you have these Israelites, supposedly, that's the whole purpose of the 70th week, is to bring the heart, and especially the last half, is to bring Israel's heart back to the Lord as a nation, so that Jesus can come. When he comes, he can go ahead and establish the Abrahamic covenant, where fulfill it, and then also get rid of the Mosaic covenant to enact the new covenant upon Israel, so that their hearts will not move away from the Lord as they've always done.
Yep, that's pretty accurate.
So that's part of some of the things and stuff in dealing with where our differences and things, and looking at and dealing.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good stuff. I need to go back through that. Yeah, probably spend some time with you, Kurt, and have you give me those references, and I'll go through the Old Testament and kind of build that bridge too. Because I think having that comprehensive understanding, that would just factor into proving the position that much better, you know?
Yeah, well, this is part of what I was saying earlier, is that it's a constant growing thing. And this isn't always dealing with the fact of you got to start pulling the whole Bible together sometimes to get the whole story.
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's not this big 10,000 foot overlook. You have to get into the weeds so you can pick up these different things, see what the actual trees are, and get the differences. So you need both. You need to understand the 10,000 and in the forest, and that's part of the thing. Standing from Truth wrote in, great after show so far, brother. So and yeah, we enjoyed you. I'm glad you came on. I know you don't a lot of times come in, Standing for Truth, Donnie, but I'm glad you did, and asking the questions. But here to credit where credit is due, Tim has great endurance, 3-hour debate, and still going strong 3 hours into the after show.
Right. Amen. Appreciate that, Donnie.
Yeah. So
well, Tim sells insurance, so he has to endure to the end to be saved.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So I wanted to share that in dealing with. Again, if anybody else has any questions, comments, put at TLS. I'll even accept at Q. If you put in even Hey Kurt, if you want to type that much.
Right.
I've had some, but hey, Kurt.
I mean, the language of the trumpets is just so, figurative.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure. And I find it hard to believe that the seals, the war and the famine, is just like physical. I mean, to me, this always has a spiritual connotation to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then every time I hear seal, I always want to go or. Okay, that's the late night humor.
Right.
But I always, the way I learned it was that they all line up. I know he's saying that we don't see the trumpets and the vials in Matthew 24, but again, like I say, it's hard to see, but I've always learned that they all line up 1 through 7, especially when it comes to 7, because that would be the last trumpet, right? That's the final. That, I don't know if you would call that the return or what you would call that, but that would be the final trumpet. So 777, you've all heard that. 666. I mean, that's the sixes line up, but the others it's a little harder to see.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole problem, because in usually dispensational thinking, we see it more literal, so it is lined up and all. But in other camps, they were around. Of course, your Mill just spiritualizes it all, because again, what is happening is they're making it into everything like that is happening. It's just general tribulation, things like that. It doesn't really hold a whole lot of real meaning.
But he did make a good point, and I agree with. You've got the first resurrection, and then you have the millennium, and then you have what he was saying was that there are people who are spiritually dead who will be resurrected after that.
Yep.
And that's the way I learned it too, because you've always have this question of, well, what about the people that never heard? What about the kid that died early or something like that? They never heard the word, but so that 1,000 years is the time where they would hear it.
That's if they're resurrected. Remember, only the believer will be resurrected.
Right.
That's the thing. And then according to Donnie's view, that happens at the pre-wrath rapture. So that's a little bit after the halfway mark, somewhere after little after the halfway mark. And in doing that, so there's not a actual resurrection at his second coming. And that's where that division I see a problem with, because that's why I was bringing up like they bring up.
And another point, I don't know if this is kind of abstract, but like the 7 thunders, we don't hear the 7 thunders because it's the same thing as all the others. It's the 7. It's just 1 through 7. It's the same 1 through 7.
Yeah, I think it's 4 thunders. It's actually 4 thunders. Yeah, I that's the other thing. Very, very rarely anybody talks about the thunders. But yeah, it's during the trumpets. One of the trumpets, there is now also going to be the 4 thunders, and what it says is John saw it, but Jesus said, "You don't write it. You do not say any. Saying it. 7 thunders would probably be too much of a dead giveaway." Okay, so that's something. But anyways, with it, he was told to seal it up and not write about it. So we don't have. Right. All we know is it's going to be there. We don't know nothing about it. And that's the other thing is, if we're not knowing anything about it, then why isn't it in Matthew 24 also? If you want to say all these others,
if they put everything in Matthew 24, Matthew 24 would be half of Matthew.
Right. That's part of the problem is you're looking at, and that's the whole thing is that Christ is speaking about, or the question was, when is your second coming? Not what is the tribulational period? And that's why I said what Jesus was doing was focusing back in Daniel and what was revealed in Daniel and giving key aspects so that they understand and think back of the book of Daniel and the prophecies in the Old Testament.
And then when it says kingdom against kingdom, I have to believe that, of course, that's the kingdom of heaven against this kingdom we have on earth, ruled by the devil.
No, again, kingdom against kingdom, I see as literal kingdoms fighting each other, because there isn't that exact peace. There will be and things, because again, what will happen is the kingdom of God at the very end when Jesus comes. That's the stone that comes down and will destroy the last kingdom, which essentially destroys everything of the times of the Gentiles and that of setting up the new covenant. So I see it more of the kingdom against kingdom is earthly. But that's part of the thing is trying to figure out what is exactly can be spiritualized, what can't. And that is part of the difficulty when dealing with like Revelation at times. Do you take it literal? Like, what is it? People talk about the locusts that come out of the pit or whatever, the holding. And so they're thinking, oh, it's helicopters or something. No, I think they're demonic.
I really would like to know if Donnie thinks that those are real insect locusts.
I would get helicopters to attack specific people in that way and then not kill them.
Yeah. See, I see that they are actually probably demonic creatures. Because I have a hard time always spiritualizing or physicalizing everything also.
But they appear to go after everybody, even even the top of the elite. They even go after them.
Mm-hmm.
And helicopters just doesn't make any sense. Those drones don't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the problem is I will admit, I grew up starting with end time stuff when I was about 16. I got to about 22, 23, something like that. And it was after, what was it? It was while I was in school. And what happened, we had this prophecy conference. I wrote it in the chat on Standing for Truth. But what happened was is that some guy goes ahead, he stands up, he's talking about, well, scientists found out in the northern sky, there's this area where there's no stars. And that's where Jesus is going to come back. And my first instance is like, and yet if there was a star, it's going to stop the Son of God from coming to earth. So I got very sarcastic when it came to when it comes to this biblical or this tabloid prophecyism, and so I kind of left the whole study for a while, and then got back into it maybe about 10 years ago, when I actually heard people really speaking about the Bible and not all this maybe stuff. Okay, Tim.
Yeah.
To let you know, Charles goes ahead and says, are you willing to formally debate me on, or what is it, on, or can the believer take the mark of the beast in tribulation?
Yep. Yep, I already said yes.
So see if you can set it up with the SFT. If not, again, get with us, and we either PB or myself, or maybe even Mark, we can we'll moderate it between you and Charles here on our stage, our channel. If it's something that SFT won't do. So,
okay. Well, I'm hoping Donnie will do it. I don't see why he wouldn't.
well, it just depends. Sometimes he's not an area that is like there's some areas that he doesn't really go into.
Okay, I see.
So
Okay.
it just depends on what's happening. Again, he probably also looks at, is it something, I mean, he deals with a lot of science, and then even with the Bible, is it something that will bring more of a high profile type thing? And I don't know. So he may decide, because he has to look at all those things as, for his channel.
Mm-hmm.
Because of being the background and stuff like that. So, but like I said, if we can't, we could do it on the Layman Seminary channel, just to let you know.
Right.
And work on setting it up. And like I said, one of us will moderate and let you go through and stuff. Because, again, we don't hold to your dispensational or salvation.
Mm-hmm.
We, as more of a truly Acts 2, we only hold what I would call as a transdispensational salvation, which has always been by grace, we're saved through faith.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
Not of yourselves, not of works. So I hold, and then, so just to let you know where the standing and all. I didn't really know that you were more of under kind of more of the mid-late acts title.
Well, I mean, I'm in, Acts 2 when the Holy Spirit indwelled the believers. That's
right.
when I would say the church actually became a living organism. But yeah, no, Revelation 14. I don't believe you can get around it at all. Like, if you want to say it's a temporal wrath, amen. He shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, where believers are going to be a lake of fire. Like, I don't know. I think Charles is going to have his hands full with this one.
Yeah, well, and he's dealt with both sides. That's the thing. So, and what was it? I'm trying to remember the name of one of the things that as a dispensationalist we go into is a lot dealing with one particular constable Notes. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but he's who actually brought up the thing that what will happen is where the possibility of the believers at that time can take the mark of the beast, and that the judgment is temporal. It's not to the lake of fire, because that's one of the differences, is not every time it's talking about judgment and all refers to always the lake going eventually to the lake of fire. So that's one of the differences, especially from Jody Dillo, and how he's coming out. People are re-looking at things and saying, what is exactly happening here? Is it really where it's doing with the negative? Is it really speaking of going to hell or going to the lake of fire? Or is it speaking of a temporal, which is dealing with just within our life right now, not when we die? It could end in our death, but then we would say it's still, you're still eternally secured. So,
yeah,
I'm just saying, I'm letting you know ahead of time.
Right.
You're dealing with a lot of nuances and stuff.
Right.
With this.
Yeah.
So you'll have to really be ready for that if you're going to. And that's why I'm bringing that up, to just let you know there are a lot of nuances that you have to kind of go for, look at, see, and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think any other questions? I don't think we're going to get to the actual going over the debate tonight.
Right? Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, but I
Well,
didn't expect it. I expected people to wanted to ask questions more and things like that. I was
What
shocked
is the?
in it.
You're talking so much, nobody can say anything.
Right, this end part. I know.
one thing I noticed just last week about Matthew 24, it's something I've been through this chapter so many times. It's verse 13. But he who endures to the end shall be saved.
Right.
Well, that is the Jews. That's how the Jews get saved. They are blinded right now. They get saved by enduring to the end. That's not how Christians get saved.
Well, the thing is the word saved actually talking about individual salvation, or are you dealing with the fact of those that remain alive and endure without being dead, put to death, and not turning to the Lord? Are in that way of saved. So saved doesn't always refer to that of actually being, as we say, saved in Christian understanding. Saved just means rescued.
In a lot of instances, I agree, but in this instance, it's specific. There's like 3 or 4 places in the Bible where I could point to, if I had a little time to prepare, that would show you that Israelis are going to be saved right at the end, right before, or right actually after Jesus returns and Armageddon is over. Right after.
So that's part of the thing that. But yeah, in order to endure to actually the end, you have to be saved. Either way, because in order to make it to the end, and that is where are you going to inherit, or are you going to hell? If you're going to deal with that way too.
What is the mark on the hand and the head in the pre-trib way of looking at it?
Anybody?
Question.
Only the tribulation saints and the non-believers can take that. Christians won't even be here anymore.
What is it, like an actual stamp of some kind, or?
Yeah. It's typically understood that it may be
in
like
existence that are precursors of it. They're actually using them in Switzerland. There's one company where you can't buy anything for their vending machines without having that chip in your hand.
Yeah, we don't really know exactly what it's going to be. It could be a chip, since that's kind of where our technology is going. A little microchip or something.
Well, yeah, it'd have to work with technology. It'd have to be something that works with technology. So,
yeah, and so it could be that there could be something of a supernatural aspect with that too. More than likely, especially since the mark of the beast will not be given out until after the 3.5, when the Antichrist is resurrected, or when he's. And what is happening?
No, that's one thing. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying and now he actually becomes the Antichrist. So now you're dealing with the real supernatural.
That's the one thing did I hear Donnie say? He said that the Antichrist is somebody who is born on Earth, and somehow he becomes the Antichrist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it is a human.
See, because the way I always learned it was Satan is the Antichrist. In other words, he's impersonating Christ. So he comes from heaven as the Antichrist.
Well, what is happening is the Antichrist is one that is being indwelt by Satan, just like Judas when Jesus said, "Go and do," and Satan came and dwelt him. So he, in that way, he became the Antichrist. The same way is going to happen here. Is the first 3.5. The guy is influenced by Satan, but not indwelt. It takes him getting killed. It looks like because he's laying out there for 3 days, because it's giving a representation of Christ. 3 days and then resurrected. And then what's happening is, and that's when Satan indwells and takes over.
There's somebody in Saudi Arabia right now that really is looking like he's making a bid to be the Antichrist. He actually said that they needed to elect him as Pope. He's a Muslim, by the way.
Yep.
Oh, that guy. I've seen that guy.
There's a lot of people that were wanting the popeship this time. I mean, what was it? President Trump did a thing, tweeted a joke about he's available. And then, of course, I saw so many memes and all about that.
Well, I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
This Pope is.
I don't understand. I don't understand the pre-trib point of view, really. But I know people do. It's fine.
Yeah. And the thing is it does take a lot of study, understanding, things like that. It's not easy. Same with the pre-wrath. Donnie's view. To get his view, you got to do a lot of study, a lot of putting together, a lot of things like that to get to a pre-wrath understanding also. So,
yeah.
What the reality is, when it comes to even the pre-trib or when the tribulational or the rapture aspect, that's not, if I may say, that's not the most important. For one simple reason, God speaks about how we are to, on doctrine we do agree with, is that Christ will come again.
Right.
He will set up the kingdom here on this earth. See that, and that's places we argue with.
Right.
Others.
So that would be the rapture.
No.
So to speak.
No, we're just talking about Christ's second coming and setting up the millennial kingdom.
That's not the rapture?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, forget the rapture.
Okay.
Just the understanding that, because again, the Bible talks about that Christ is going to come again, and he's going to set up his kingdom. That's a key aspect, I think, in at least in the big picture. Then it takes time to get into, and when it comes to eschatology, I think that's one of the last things people should really dive into a lot of times, because it's so hard and complicated. There may be other things that are better to deal with for their Christian life than trying to deal with the eschatology all the time.
How did you think the debate went, Tim?
I mean, I think, I think I was doing perfectly fine. It was just the cross exam where I let myself get lost in that certain spot of the mark of the beast where everything didn't go great. But as far as everything else, it's just every one of his talking points I addressed, and I know how to rebuttal them very easily. I mean, again, Matthew 24 does not have a resurrection, and even again, we had Donnie in here earlier, and I was even getting. I may add this to my future debates when I do more debates on the rapture, but there's also the issue of Revelation 19:20 and Revelation 19 and 20. The marriage of the Lamb is happening in heaven and everything like that before the first resurrection. So again, we already have basically an order of the resurrections right there in those chapters.
So, okay. Any other questions, comments, snide remarks?
Yeah, I mean, okay. The language is crazy. And, I know when people hate reading into things, but like, let's say the fifth trumpet, you've got the smoke that darkens the air and the sun. Okay, well, I mean, again, like what you're saying before, are we really talking about darkening the sun, or is it just the light of the world, spiritual light? That's kind of how I would take it. And then because the smoke is in the air, and that's the air is, ruach means spirit and air. So
Yeah,
Well,
and
there
that
you
because it
go.
was a vision, John has some latitude to say the vision according to his understanding. It might not, it might be like a giant volcano that just clouds out everything, or something else like that. You get, because it's a vision, you gotta take into account that God gave him leeway on how to describe it.
I just had like the worst cramp in the world right there. Right when I was finishing my sentence. Oh my goodness, that was horrible. But yeah. I mean, if I I should have just stuck to my questions that I had right here and moved on, like Kurt Sandman stuff. And I would have. I mean, that debate, I had it in the bag. I mean, even if I didn't do good on the cross exam, I mean, the position still stands perfectly fine. And what was it? To what you were saying about the sun, the moon being dark. Well, you see, that's the thing, is that if we were to hold to this idea that some scriptures are allegorical or they're not really saying something plain or literal, then anybody can interpret the Bible the way they want. But when the Bible says, with the sun and moon shall go dark, and then you line that up with Revelation and things like that, you understand that it's actually a physical thing happening. It's literal. It's not some symbolic thing or means like you have the blues or whatever. No, it means what it says, and it says what it means. That's what we call that's what we call exegesis. So when you stick to the literal interpretation, what the Bible literally says, you can never go wrong, because you have what it says. You're not putting your own ideas and conjecture in there, which is eisegesis.
Well, but then you're going to have locusts who look like women and have long hair and lion's teeth and.
Yeah. So what? I believe that.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe there are some weird-looking demonic creatures that the Lord has made to reserve for judgment. So.
Yeah, and again, that's part of the thing is that when you look at it in the context and things like that, how do you take it? Do you take it literally? Do you take it, like you said, is it a figurative thing, but based in this literal? So we got to keep it within the literal. It's the same thing like with Revelation 19, when it talks about how Satan will be put into chains, or have this chain wrapped around him. Well, again, there may not be a literal chain, but it's something recognizing that he is bound. Something's binding Satan. But if you're going to go ahead and do this whole allegorical, like a lot of people do, can we even say there's a Satan? Can we even say that there is a Jesus? Can we say, how far are you going to go with your allegory and spiritualize and just put away? Or so that's part of the thing, is saying, okay, what is given? Okay, we have to say at least in the parameters of what it's saying. So there might not be a literal chain, but there's something binding Satan at that time. That we can definitely say. But the only thing that John could think of maybe at that time as a description is chains.
Yeah.
The most important thing to understanding Bible prophecy is pray for wisdom, and not just a token prayer either, but spend time with God, asking him for wisdom and listening to see what he says and believing that he will answer.
Yeah. Because, like I said, it's not easy. Going through Revelation is not easy. And you have to base Revelation also upon the Old Testament. And that would include Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Because technically those are Old Testament books still. Though written, because again, what it's speaking of before the cross, for the most part. So that's still Old Testament.
Yeah.
So you got, and that's why I'm saying that, like with Matthew 24, it's written to Israelites because it's the elect. It's written before the revelation of the mystery of the church. So in doing that, it's as to this rapture, you don't see any rapture. All you see is a resurrection, but you don't see a rapture any other place. The only time you see a rapture is in this fourth mystery, resurrection, rapture. All the others are just resurrections.
Well, the Gospels are transitional books. They're mostly about the Jews, but there's a significant amount that's about the church too.
Right.
But it's hidden because if the devil had known, he would not have crucified the Lord of glory. So it's hidden, but it's there if you know what to look for, if you understand God and His Word.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is yes, it was hidden, but not a mystery. Because Jesus himself, after on the road to Emmaus, showed what that in the Old Testament how this would happen. We also know in Psalm 22 that it talks about how his soul will not be left in Sheol. So again, in other words, the place of the dead. So we know that this Messiah would die. We know, so there's different things that are shown throughout the Old Testament. The problem is it wasn't made as clear until more light was put on, especially from the New Testament. It's like when Paul says of the idea of seed and using the word singular, but when you look at the Abrahamic covenant, seed, it can be referring to promised seed of Genesis 3:15 and the seed as in his generations that will come after him.
Hey, real quick, guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump out for the night.
Yep.
So
I understand.
yeah. But yeah, it was a lot of fun hanging with you, Kurt. And this is a great after show, brethren. So it was great hanging out. Pray for wisdom. New name. Great seeing you guys. And of course, everybody in the chat, I really appreciate all of you. I don't know if Preston probably is already out, but I really appreciate your kind words there, Brother Preston. And AD33, I will see you on the Making Hell Nervous channel. That's the other channel that I'm partnered with that I do studies and like that and things like that on. So yeah, for you brethren who wants to watch my content, look up AVBTM and Making Hell Nervous. I'm on both those channels. So
okay. Thank you, Tim. Glad to have you here. Man, SFT is true. You are a trooper in staying this long.
Right.
I mean, 3 hours is exhausting. Can be exhausting if you're not used to it. And then another going on, it gets tiring.
Hey, man, brother. Yeah. And above all, Brother Kurt, I really can't thank you enough for helping me in my prep. You were a major blessing to me, brother. I really appreciate everything you helped me do. And again, like I said, I'm up for a part 2 with Tommy. And this next time, I'll make sure that I stick with my cross exam and not go off into the weeds or anything like that. So I don't know if Tommy's listening or if probably Donnie's listening or whatever, but I'm all up for a rematch. So.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Have a good night.
You too, brother. See you guys.
Okay, any last questions, comments, night remarks?
What were those channels? ABBT?
Yeah.
Making Hell Nervous?
Yeah, something like that. what is it? Authorized Bible version, and then TM, and then that last part. Yeah, unfortunately, I can just ask them if I needed to. I have them on Discord.
You know, I don't believe in that King James only.
Yeah.
I believe that there's like 4 or 5 versions that are good. All the others you just should stay away from. I go with New King James. I like New King James because it's just plain easier to understand. And I know the King James good enough where I can't be fooled by things being changed. I don't think I could be.
Yeah.
But New King James is pretty close to King James, and for people that have issues about understanding things, it makes it a whole lot easier to do New King James.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
if you're really serious in Bible study, there's probably an advantage to it. But if you're just like a layman that just studying for themselves and not really that interested, you're probably better to go with this one you can understand better. And
yeah.
New King James is what I go with.
I understand. I myself grew up King James, and when the new King James came out, I kind of moved over to that myself because it allowed for. I couldn't go with the NIV. I think that just did a horrible job.
I wouldn't go NIV. That's New American Standard, and what's the other one? There's another one that I go with too that I'm not remembering right now, but I'm almost exclusively New King James.
Yeah. Well, since I can do Greek, I go to the Greek. I utilize the Greek myself, and I
All right,
use
I'll check you later.
Okay,
That's the thing. I go to Strong's on Blue Letter Bible and some of their study guides and look it up for myself if I don't quite.
Yeah, they do a good overall job because I look at the Blue Letter Bible also, and I would say they do a good job going beyond even Strong's to kind of give a better overview than even Strong's does on what the meanings are and stuff. So I utilize that a lot to just give overviews of what the word means, but then you have to go ahead and work on it to say, okay, which one really refer in what the different meanings, which ones are being utilized in that verse.
Well, it only takes me a second to switch over to King James if I think that has a better.
Oh yeah, I mean
King
that
James has mistakes in it too. They have things that if you go to the original Greek and Hebrew, they have mistakes in it too. They're not perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
They did an amazing job for what they had to work with because there were no computers. There was the printing press was a brand new thing, and typewriters were unthought of.
Yep.
And they had no technology, and then they had to do all this translating. I thought they did an amazing job, but there are some mistakes in it.
Yeah. I see problems sometimes with the translations of the King James in specific areas. Sometimes I think they were because again they were utilizing trying for a word for word, and we didn't have the proper word, and it really needed to be 3 words instead of just the 2 to get its actual meaning. And
Well, I got to get to church tomorrow, so I'm gonna call it
Have a good one.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we will call it quits then here, since unless anybody in the chat has any questions, I'll give you one last chance, but I haven't seen anything where there's been putting at Q or at TLS or hey Kurt and things like that. Want to thank you all. I'm looking through here, going through and stuff for stopping by, being here the whole time, things like that, being a part of tonight's show. Also want to, for those that will listen later, because we do get a lot of people listening later because we do across the world. Thank you for listening in and being a part of listening and stuff. Also, like I said, if you like the program, go ahead and hit like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you like to share by giving, please do. We got our different ways of doing that. That just helps us to offset the cost to make sure that everything is taken care of. But again, we only say if you're able to. No mandatory and things like that. Again, I know with what's his name, Preston. Thank you for your giving and for the questions that you asked and all. So in dealing with, but again, you don't have to give to even get your questions answered and dealing with that. So we only ask you to put in the effort to put at Q or at TOS, especially since there's a whole conversation going on in the chat. Okay, so since it is morning where I'm at, I'm going to say good morning to everyone. Get some sleep for those that are. If it's your day, enjoy your day. And I will say good night on my end.